Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, та вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Хотите жить – бегите. Хотите жить – сдавайтесь в плен. Россия не получит новую территорию Украины. Россия присоединит себя к той катастрофе, которую она принесла на оккупированную территорию нашей страны. Оккупант заполняет могилами захваченную территорию Украины. И все больше могил на территории самой России. Ценой того, что один человек в России хочет продолжать эту войну, кто хочет войны больше, чем жизнь. Ваши жизни, граждане России.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 585 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again on another fundraiser night.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, but it is the night of the week. It is the Sunday fundraiser night, and tonight's fundraiser is for Razom for Ukraine. Razom for Ukraine is an amazing nonprofit based out of Ukraine itself, of course registered here in the United States as well as a 501c nonprofit, and they have been doing incredible work throughout the entirety of the war and even before the beginning of the outbreak of war in 2022, providing help, support, and medical aid to Ukrainian soldiers and citizens alike throughout the entire country. Tonight we have a $5,000 goal for Razom for Ukraine, and I know, because the Leaf Spring Army has never missed a single goal in its entire history, we are going to hit this goal tonight. One thing that we have always been dedicated to on this channel is making sure to cover the story of the brave and valiant soldiers of Ukraine and their defense of their nation, the proud and triumphant citizens of Ukraine who continue to toil behind the lines every single day to help all of the soldiers of the Ukrainian military to carry on the struggle and the story of the nation as a whole as they've continued to fight day in and day out in this war. We will always make sure to do that. And one thing that I know the Leaf Spring Army will do as well is that they will race up to the front ahead of every other community and will make sure to blow away every other community out there. It's not a pissing contest, but it is. And we're going to
pissing contest.
And we are going to absolutely blow away tonight's Sunday fundraiser, not only getting up to $5,000, but way beyond that. And one thing
we are in this pissing contest to win it, I'm telling you.
Man, we are in it to win it tonight. And I gotta say, hopefully we can hit $5,000 before the first hour is even out. I know that the Leaf Spring Army is dedicated to the cause of helping to support folks through amazing fundraisers like Razom. And of course, I can see the donations are already rolling in. And I think that at this point, and I have to go pull up my stream again because I closed out that window on accident. I was only supposed to mute it on Sunday night, but then I closed out completely. Oh man, that must be confusing to a lot of people. $1.4 thousand has already been raised for Razom for Ukraine. And it's an absolutely amazing goal. Just in case, because you can see a lot of people are joining us tonight already. Know how a YouTube fundraiser works. A YouTube fundraiser is actually set up directly through YouTube. We designate the fundraiser that this fundraiser is for. So we designate the nonprofit, which tonight's Razom, and then YouTube will set up a bank account inside of their own system. You donate $69. $69 goes directly into that account. They do not deduct processing fees. They do not deduct anything for accountants to go over the amount and to make sure that it is the proper one. And then they send it directly over to the nonprofit in question, which tonight it is Razom. So that means that if you send in $100 like Repo Man 46 did, Hey, that means that exactly $100, no more, no less, will be going to Razom for Ukraine and helping to save their lives over there. And so, of course, please make sure to donate tonight, because the support does help out massively, and hopefully we can blow this thing away, because we're already up to $1.7 thousand, and I know that we're only going to be going higher from there. But moving on from that...
It's going fast. And also, real quick, folks, it is fundraiser night, and we don't have any super chats going on, so if you have a question for us, feel free to put @EnforcerMatt in the chat, and I will add it to our spreadsheet, and I need a lot of questions, so feel free to send them in.
And I gotta say, please make sure to send them in. We always love to have amazing and great questions to answer, and of course, we always love to hear from y'all as well and get to talk to y'all. We aren't stuck up like some people who think that they're very important. Y'all, a lot of y'all have amazing and great questions to ask, and I want to make sure that we try and answer as many of them as possible. But with that...
The LSA is accessible, I'm telling you. We're not like those other people.
No, we're not. We're not. We are completely different than our competitors. You won't find anyone like us, says every single basic girl in history. But anyways, moving on from that, and on into the breaking news of the night. Attacks have rocked every single Russian base that is of significant size in the border area of Ukraine on the Russian side. We have seen border attacks occur in the area of Smolensk, as well as the famous city of Sochi, where the Sochi Winter Olympics were held in 2014. It is really something. It's absolutely incredible to see that the Ukrainians have been able to launch some pretty large and very successful attacks from what we could tell today. And moving on into the city of Smolensk first, because that seemed to have been the first one that occurred in the day, we got two videos showing the drone strike that occurred on the city. And so let me show you. We can see a Russian filming from their Khrushchevka apartment block, looking into the distance. And there it was, the explosion. And we can see the explosion of a drone right there in the middle of the city. We don't know exactly what it was hitting, but nevertheless, it did hit something dead on, and it appears to have, of course, set off car alarms and alarmed the local community by a small degree. We also got to see a second video of this attack on Smolensk. This one appeared to actually show a little bit more from another angle. And so here's the clip. We can see the drone right out there.
Что, у него энергия закончилась? Он падает, что ли? Что это? Ой,
And
упал.
we can see it going and diving into the park.
На Солдатское озеро. Будет какой-то бабах, или он просто упал?
And it blew up in the park. We don't know what's in the park. I'm not really... Of course, this building obscures our vision of that park incredibly well. We don't know if there's a little office building over there or what. But considering that we have two lines of sight here, and this is something very telling. And also, damn, DCC Prime just threw in $300 to Razom. Damn, that's impressive. And thank you so much for that, DCC Prime, because you're going to be helping to save lives over there with the Razom. And that just brought our fundraiser up to $2.7 thousand. We are absolutely treading ground tonight. We are already up to nearly $3,000 in just 20 minutes of the stream. And of course, LSA, keep blowing this thing up because it is doing incredibly well. Y'all are blowing up this fundraiser better than the Ukrainians just blew up this place in Smolensk. But let's move on up into the city of Smolensk. And let's try and take a look around and locate where specifically that was. So what we are looking for are some Khrushchevka commie blocks and a park. And based off of this, we can tell that this Khrushchevka block, where this drone exploded, actually is tiered, so it appears that the roof is not going to be the same height in every single part, which may be a telling indicator to find the building with. But we can see here multiple Khrushchevka blocks. Those are not the ones we're looking for. We're looking up here onto the northern side of the city. We don't really see a park here either, but we do see a school. And so that's something that we might be able to work off of later if we can figure it out. We can see a whole bunch more Khrushchevka blocks up here, and what also appears to be a lot of construction. You know, the Russians love construction, Matthew. Shoigu! Shoigu! He's a construction worker, a bricklayer. And I gotta tell you, Matthew, he's been laying in bricks a lot lately in this war, shitting them out, actually. But anyways, trying to
you
find...
ought to focus more on the foundation than the bricklaying at this point.
Man, hell, man, he might be working on that soon, but... We actually cannot tell exactly where this is because there are so many park-like areas in this part of the city. Well, really the entire city of Smolensk looks like it has multiple parks in it or multiple forested areas. It is really hard to actually try and geolocate this clip or these two clips And to find out exactly where it happened, we only have the Khrushchevka blocks to work off of right here, which isn't enough of a identifying landmark. So sadly, we won't be able to geolocate this into an exact location within Smolensk, but an attack did appear to rock the center of Smolensk today. It caused a lot of Russians to have a great concern. But moving on from Smolensk, we were able to confirm a lot more information about the Sochi attacks that occurred by drone today as well. And these, from what we could tell, were monumental in their impact. We know what they hit, but I'll be showing you all the two clips and also moving this one up here, so that way they're both at Sochi. But here's the first clip of a Ukrainian drone flying into the city this morning. And we can see this camera here attached to this house, looking off into the distance. We can see what appears to be some kind of a hill in the background. And sadly, there's no audio in this clip, but we can see in the distance a drone come in, and it explodes right out there. So it's almost like a stop-motion animation film that we're watching right here for some reason. It's really weird looking. The smoke starts rising off of the tarmac wherever it hit. And by the way, we do know largely where this is. There is a tarmac out there from the reports that we've gotten. It actually hits some kind of a military base at Sochi, and we'll, of course, be trying to geolocate that here in a minute.
Man, you know, when Ivan pulled his footage off the camera here, he said, "Oh, Bliat, Igor, you would never believe what I got from my ring-a-ding camera today. A drone hit an airbase, Bliat." Man. No, you're capping, Igor. Show me. And then they're like, "Oh my God, it did. Right outside your house."
They said, they're like, "Man, that could cap, man. There's no way that they." Oh my God, it did. Wow, that's actually kind of crazy. But anyways, with that, we're going to be moving on into our next clip, where we also saw a second clip of the drone attack on Sochi. And also, I like how this guy, looking at his haircut at the first part of the video, he's like, "Man, I'm looking fresh as hell." And then he turns the camera around and then shows the drone. Man, the Russians were going off on this one, but they weren't able to take it out. Oh, man. And so, now, let's go into Sochi and let's try and geolocate this one. Since we were not that successful in locating the one up there in Smolensk. So let's go down to the Sochi, Chicken and Gnocchi, whatever you want to call it. We need to look for a military airfield around the area, because that's what we were told. This one says Sochi attack, drone attacks continue. This one in particular, I believe, when I was able to find more information about it, actually said that it was some kind of a helicopter pad or a military airfield near Sochi when I was able to find it. But let's see if we can find a helipad or a military airfield around here. So this is actually a part of the rail line here that looks like an airfield. Actually, hold up. We have helipads here. Interesting. And we have a government office right there. So let's see. There's hills. And that looks like it's kind of on a hill. Can we get a street view of this area over here? We can. Damn, move, truck. Alright, so. Can't really tell you anything identifying from. Wait a minute. This kind of looks like the general area. Those might be the helipads in question. But let's try and look a little bit more. So we have helipads here. This may have been the possible target of these drone strikes that we just saw on the video, because we were told that it was some kind of a helipad or an airfield that was attacked, and this is obviously some kind of a helipad or airfield for the government office sitting right here on the beach. But let's move around a little bit more. We have another helicopter field or pad right there. That one might be possibly the one, but not really sure yet. We're going to look around a little bit more. So let's move on through here. Man, I gotta say, Sochi is kind of bricked up as far as the wealth goes. You can tell that these people have got some cash.
Interesting.
Man, you just say, interesting, man. And let's see.
Wordage.
They said it was by the Sochi International Airport. Thank you, Jay, for sharing that. And let me grab that real quick. The live chat's moving pretty quickly, so it's hard to grab it. But let's see here. Grabbed it. Let's throw that in. And so here we go. And so where is this relative to Sochi? This is actually further down from Sochi, near Adler. And so let's take a look. Here are the helipads there. These are military helipads as well. We can tell because they have a KA-29 or a KA-32 right there. They also have what appear to be an Mi-17, another KA-29 or 32, another KA-29 or 32, and another one. And then maybe an Mi-24 or an Mi-35 of some kind. We can't really identify that one too well, neither of these too well, but let's see. So the house we were looking at was looking at a hill, and we can see a hill line back here, and it's looking at it from this direction. You see houses, and let's see if we can get like a relative location of which direction they're looking at. There's two white poles over there to the right side, and we know they're looking towards the east. And so if we go off of that, where are some two large white poles over here to the northern side of the helipad? Not really seeing that at the moment. Maybe there's two white poles down here on this side. This side appears to be less populous. So that might be where those antennas were. They may actually be looking at the helipad from the side of the airfield. But at the moment, we can't really tell for certain. Again, we do know that it was this area, and we were able to finally locate it. And I got to thank Jay Lancaster for being able to find that for us right there. But beyond that, we don't actually know where that exact clip was taken and what line of sight was had to be able to watch that drone attack unfold. And nevertheless, it did hit the helipad. We don't know if any helicopters were destroyed in this attack. We do know that the helipad was hit directly by the drone strike, and we did also see that there were Russian soldiers in the area firing their rifles at the drone, trying to shoot it down, of course unsuccessfully. And this is giving us a really good idea that Ukraine is going for some of the longest range attacks we have ever seen being conducted by drone. Sochi is actually a really far way away from where a Ukrainian drone could be launched. Roughly about 400 miles away, as a matter of fact, from about the shortest distance it could travel. And Smolensk is a lot closer, actually. If we were to launch a drone from that area, Smolensk is only about 180 miles away. But one thing's becoming quite clear. They are continuing to strike very deep into Russia, way beyond their prior abilities, and they're starting to do it a lot more frequently with these drones. We'll of course be trying to see what kind of damage was caused by this Ukrainian attack inside of Sochi, but nevertheless, it is a very significant one, hopefully devastating, and we'll be able to get a little bit more information about how that may have affected the Russians coming into the next days and weeks. Another interesting thing to note is that we have specific information highlighting that the area around Sochi and Adler is heavily defended by multiple air defense units that have been located in this area to try and protect Putin's summer mansion. That is one thing that's been confirmed for nearly 8 to 9 months of the war so far. And so, based off of that, this drone not only struck very far into Russia, about 400 miles over occupied Russian territory in the Russian Federation, but it also was able to make it through the heavily defended air defense network in this area, which is showing that there are certainly some kind of gaps or issues with that air defense that we, of course, would have already known about because, you know, it's Russian air defense. How good can it really be? But moving on from that news in Sochi, and also from the by and large idea of the attacks that have been occurring on Russian territory today, this is pretty big news. Of course, not game-changing. The Ukrainians have started to conduct attacks like these quite regularly, but the mass amount of attacks that were that occurred today, and also the very different locations of the attacks, spanning all the way from Smolensk down to Sochi, is showing us that the Ukrainians are possibly taking on some kind of a drone campaign against the Russians to conduct bombings onto Russian bases and hopefully try and knock out some military equipment before it can ever even arrive on the battlefield. Moving on from that and into Moscow, we also got a very interesting clip today as well from Moscow. Today marks, October 1st, actually marks the 1-year anniversary since Russia annexed, and I've got to put that in air quotes, annexed Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson in a election or a referendum more so. Today, the Russians in Moscow were celebrating this with a patriotic concert. But interestingly enough, when you go up and ask these people questions about it, you don't really get that good of answers. I'm going to have to mute the audio, though, because this is a clip that's been put out by a larger news organization, and we are using this entirely under Title 17 of fair use as news reporting, documentary, and educational purposes, and we're also not going to be playing any audio as well to make sure not to cause any issues. So I won't be able to play all the audio, but I will be able to read you all the subtitles. Can I ask you, why have you come to the concert? Why? Why have we come to the concert? Why have you come here today? Dude, that first guy was literally like, dude, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing here. He's like, why did we come here? And this guy's all painted up to be proud of Russia and everything. He doesn't even know why he's there.
Look a little bit brain dead, I gotta say.
Man, I'm telling you. Why have you come here today? First of all, that's a very good question, but I can't answer it. What's the concert? To be honest, I don't know. I just came along with my friends to support the crowd. To support the crowd? Dude, he said to support the crowd. Dude, that is so stupid sounding. That's like saying, oh boy, man, I show up to Pink Floyd because I just found out what Pink Floyd was yesterday, y'all. Oh, I just show up to Pink Floyd to support the crowd. What the hell are you talking about? But anyways, when you see them grabbing onto people, I mean, goodness, what the hell is this? I don't know if this is a concert or if this is some kind of a touchy-feely thing. I'm not really sure.
That dude just got straight up groped.
Oh, man. And speaking of groped, these old women actually have an answer to the question. They're the only ones so far. We have new republics now. They've returned to the motherland. We've waited a long time for this. Which territories? Luhansk and the Donetsk People's Republics and Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. They're all ours. It's our historic motherland. But this is Ukraine, isn't it? No, this is Russia. Hang on a minute, everyone. Hang on a minute. Hold up. Map of Ottoman Empire. Let's see here. 1720s. Let me go get you all a map of them there Ottoman empires in the 1720s, because it's a little telling. Alright, so here we go. Here's a map of the Ottoman Empire in 1683. You notice that the Khanate of Crimea actually falls under Ottoman Empire territory in 1683? Kind of a little interesting. So, you know, what, did the Turks own Crimea? I mean, they have owned it for an incredibly long time. And look, it not only encompasses Crimea, it's also Kherson, it's even Odessa. They even encompass the area pretty much of all of southern Ukraine. And then they have Zaporizhia and Donetsk as well, not Luhansk. And then also they have Rostov-on-Don. So maybe the Turks ought to start a war with Russia and reclaim the land that's rightfully theirs. Or, better yet, we can actually go with another one. And let me take this back off screen and go pull up another historical example of Poland-Lithuania map. Now, the Polish-Lithuanian borders would change a pretty good bit over history and, you know, kind of fluctuate a little bit, but maybe this one will tell you all a little bit interesting about Poland-Lithuania. There's a map of Poland-Lithuania. I think this is largely just an amalgamation of what they did in the 17th century, but notice that they own almost all of Ukraine in the modern day, except for the parts that were actually controlled by the Ottoman Empire. So what? Should Lithuania now declare war on the Russians, the Latvians, the Estonians, the Poles, the Russians, and the Ukrainians to take back all that land? Should the Polish and the Lithuanians both do that together? I mean, what's the point? I mean, every country in Europe can actually argue that a part of someone else's land is theirs. Everyone can. Poland actually has a very damn good argument to make that point. The Polish used to control largely all of this. Out of Poland and Lithuania, Poland was the larger part of that Commonwealth and the more powerful of the two. But look at the Germans. I mean, you know, we don't want to talk about the Germans reclaiming land. They have a little bit of a history of that whole thing. But they would largely have a claim to what's called Kaliningrad now, East Prussia, which is largely halfway in Poland at this point, a decent amount of Western Poland, and possibly even Austria as well, because at some times in the Holy Roman Empire, Austria and the Czech Republic were both a part of the Holy Roman Empire, and therefore fell under largely the power of the Germans as a people for the most part. Hell, look at Britain. Britain could claim a large part of France. Hell, for about 40 years, the English actually ruled Paris. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. So do the British have a legitimate claim to Paris? No. Better yet, what about Spain? I mean, Spain was controlled mostly in the 900s by El Andalus. What, does El Andalus still hold a claim to most of Spain? No. Does Spain hold a claim to really anything else? Not really. That could go for every country in Europe. Really, every single one of them. The Hungarians used to be a massive empire in the Balkans. Does that mean that they get to invade every surrounding country and recreate that empire? No. They don't. So why in the world do the Russians act like they're special, especially when it comes to Crimea, which has changed hands multiple times over at least the past 400 years? Why in the world do they act like they are the ones with the special sauce that own Crimea? It makes no sense historically. So, don't mean to go through and just throw a book at y'all as far as the history goes of Europe and the borders and how they've changed and how they're not really that good, honestly, and borders really aren't that great anywhere around the world as far as taking into account cultural and ethnic differences. None of them really do that well. But at the same time, the Russians trying to lay claim to Crimea is pretty silly because almost everyone in the area could lay claim to Crimea. But anyways, we came to the concert by Metro to support our president. This guy actually knows what's going on, apparently. Vladimir Volodymyrovich Putin. He had to get the whole name out. In short, Putin's our hero. Putin's a good guy. We love him. I like Putin. What do you like about him? I like his policies. The only thing I don't like is that things are not quite right in our country.
Wait, that's contradictory. How can you like his policies and not like the way your country is running? That doesn't even make sense.
Boy, I love Kim Jong-un. The only thing I don't like about Kim Jong-un is how he runs the country. But beyond that, I love how he runs the country. That is the most Soviet statement anyone could ever make right there, man, is to say, oh, I love the leader. I just don't like everything he does. But beyond that, I love the guy. He does great at running the country.
These people might be being paid to show up because they don't seem to know really what they think, and some of them don't even know why they're there.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Petrol's expensive and all that. How the hell can petrol be expensive in one of the largest oil-producing countries in the world? Can you tell me that? Could you? Would you? I mean, healthcare's bad. What happened to all... Oh, come on. What happened to all that amazing Russian healthcare? I mean, hell, we actually in the United States, we've been beat over the head about Russian healthcare, oddly enough, for a small while way back in the day going, well, the Russians have free healthcare. And look, of course the Russian government mismanages that. So, anyways, healthcare's bad. We need to improve healthcare. And in rural areas, it's the same. Other than that, I like Putin. Putin won't be here today. He won't? Putin won't be here? I'm off.
Oh, damn.
You wanted to? I've never seen him in person. I'd like to.
I wonder
why. My dream is to shake his hand. Wow. This guy's got nothing.
Big hopes in life.
Man, this guy's got nothing going on in life, man. When your whole thing is to shake someone's hand, you've got nothing going on. Every 100 years, the Russian people rebel. Not like the French, but they really go for it in a big way. But Vladimir Volodymyrovich Putin manages to keep everything under control. Well, that's because the last time the Russian people revolted was only 30 years ago, so we still got another 70 years to go, according to your timetable, bud, so that's why he's able to keep everything in control, is because by your own rule, 100 years hasn't passed since the last time they rebelled, so kind of lame.
I guess the Wagner coup's been erased out of our minds pretty effectively by now.
Yeah, he managed to keep the whole hammer on head. I just saw Wagner drive by. That was a small disagreement. But in Russia, that really isn't.
Just some squirrels. Just some squirrels coming into the country.
Man, just a small quarrel, little family argument. The Russians, man, they got a very short-term memory when it comes to stuff like that. But the fact that for a year and a half there's been fighting in Ukraine, I'm not a politician or from the military, so it's hard for me to judge. Well, isn't that your job as a citizen in a quote-unquote democracy to judge? I mean, really, we don't talk politics on this channel, but as a citizen of a democracy and a voting member of society, it's like, isn't that kind of your role to say whether things are going good in your opinion or not? I mean, you might not be the, damn house expert on the thing, but that's kind of your role in a democracy, is to say, I like something or I dislike something, and then vote according to that. But we'd like it to be over as soon as possible, because so many people have been wounded and killed. But the sooner it ends, the better. If you ask me, it would be better, sorry to say this, if they use more force in Ukraine. Oh, hell, they can't really do any more than they're doing, citizens of Ukraine, so it'd be very hard for them to use more force. The next thing would be nukes, so what the hell is she talking about? So they seize everything more quickly. Sorry. That's our lecturer. And he's coming up, are you lecturing the proper political points? And our stream just died.
It did. Man, it died bad.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. So now we gotta wait for it to come back. Come on back, stream. Come on
I think it's back now. I think it already went through its little lag spot there.
Oh, man. Well, let me run it back here a little bit really quickly. she's saying, if they use more force in Ukraine, so they seize everything more quickly. And then this guy goes, sorry. That's our lecture. And now we got the political commissar, aka the lecturer, and he's coming up and making sure that they're saying the proper party lines.
I'm not your lecturer.
Oh,
let's not do interviews.
dude,
Oh my god, he's really doing it. He's doing the handler thing.
It's the handler. Let's not do interviews. Armed conflict. We're restoring our territory. It's our historic territory. That's why Putin's a good guy. A solid guy. Good health to him.
Oh, okay. So the handler makes sense now. They're not even free to say what they want right now because there's a guy literally lurking around listening to what they're saying.
Dude, that was crazy, man. A literal handler came up and said, let's not do interviews. It's like if that's
And they called him a lecturer.
Yeah! Dude, that's insane, man. I couldn't believe that because I hadn't watched this far into the clip. I thought he was just going to come up and he was going to be like, oh, hey, what's up, everyone? And maybe give his points. Instead, he came up and he shut that crap down. He said, no interviews. That is insane.
And the people didn't even bat an eye at it. They knew who he was. They said a lecturer, and they didn't ask like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, coming over here telling us what to do or anything." They just knew immediately. Shut up and go away.
Man, that was nuts. That's the craziest thing. That's what you see in North Korea. Like, whenever you get to talk to the people a little bit, there's always a handler there. But I've never seen anything like that yet inside of Russia. This is the first time I've ever actually seen a handler out there trying to manage the crowd and the media. By the way, I don't think he's coming today. We'll be waiting for him. We'll be waiting for him. We always wait for him, and we pray for him. Well, you're going to have to do a lot more praying, honey, because it's not helping him out at all. But anyways, moving on from that, that was a group of the people who went to the concert today. Got a pretty good feeling that isn't a good gauge of the Russian public, considering there are literal handlers about in that crowd. And I got to tell you, that's some real commie stuff right there. I'm not going to lie. But really quickly, have to say this for a moment because I have to give a huge shout out. It is up to $3.7 thousand for Razom for Ukraine.
Let's go.
Let's go. And we are $1,270 away from the fundraiser goal of the night. And I know the Lee Spring Army is going to reach it. I know we are. It's not that far away now. It's not that far. We'll reach 5,000 and we'll really get over the top. I know it. I believe it. And hopefully, we will see that here before the hour is ending. And so, we're not calling a general order yet. Letting y'all know that. We're not calling a general order yet. But I hope that we can reach $5,000 without a general order having to be called, because I think that would be absolutely phenomenal. But, moving on from that little bit of news inside of Russia, things are not really going good in Russia. Of course, and also, Dallas Borakua said the fundraiser is not updating. And that's silly. That's quite silly. It should be updating all the time because it's a live count of the fundraiser funds raised. So you know what? I'm actually going to test that out real quick. Let me throw in a $20 donation and let me see if it registers it. Just to double check. So let me throw one in. And so,
and is it? There it is.
And it is updating. It is updating. I just saw it update from that one. So it is updating. And make sure to throw in support to Razom for Ukraine. Of course, all of the support goes to Razom and helps them continue to save the lives of people over there in Ukraine. And with that, we are now going to be moving on out of Russia and the pretty rough things that are going on there. And we're now going to be moving back into Ukraine. Things have been popping off in Ukraine as well today, to a pretty decent degree. Shots have been flying all over the place. It's been pretty wild and pretty nuts all around. But of course, over the past 24 hours, we have gotten a lot of news from everywhere, and specifically around Bakhmut, it appears that things on film are becoming very, very strenuous, especially as far as the fighting is going. But before we get to all of that, we heard a very interesting statement today from the Ukrainian government that they are planning on becoming a major weapons producer in the world as the war begins to round out. According to Zelensky today, in a statement by Clash Report, he stated that our state will become one of the key global producers of weapons and defense systems. And this is no longer just a prospect, it is a potential that has begun to be realized. Pretty interesting to hear. We actually haven't heard the Ukrainians make a statement like that before, and a fairly interesting one considering that they're planning on that becoming a large part of their economy once the war starts to round out. But moving on from that and on into our location unknowns, we don't have a lot tonight, but I highly encourage y'all to watch them here in a minute because The freaking Bliat man showed up today on the front lines. Not even lying. Bliat man is there. And I'll be showing y'all Bliat man here in just a second. It's actually the first clip in the location unknown, so you can see it right there. But before we get into that, this fundraiser has absolutely been going ham tonight. We are currently at $3.9 thousand raised for Razom for Ukraine. And we are just $1.1 thousand away from reaching the fundraiser goal tonight. Of course, it is absolutely amazing to know the Lee Spring Army is rallying around the fundraiser once again tonight and helping to support such amazing folks over there inside of Ukraine and helping them to keep things going and helping them to be able to save the lives of more people, provide food, humanitarian aid, and everything else. It is absolutely incredible and amazing from top to bottom, and all of y'all continue to throw in donations and support to Razom so that way they can make sure to keep things running on their end. But before I get into everything with the Bliat man and the location unknowns tonight, we have so much to talk to y'all about because a lot of y'all, of course, have been going ham in the live chat with everything that's been going on inside of Russia, what was just being said at that concert, and also a couple of other topics that span outside of our news coverage tonight that many of y'all have probably heard about already. But Matthew, take it away. And also, Matthew, really quickly, because Nicholas Condor just threw in a 250 Canadian, bumping us up to $4.2 thousand raised.
And let's go.
And Matthew, you know what we gotta do? We gotta call them out.
All right, so I'm about to call all y'all out in a good way. But anyways, we are raising a ton of money tonight for Razom. I gotta say, to the dismay of Russian bots and trolls alike, they've been popping in here tonight like crazy, and they hate to see money going to Ukraine. But we are nonetheless killing the fundraiser, absolutely killing it. And we're currently at $4.2 thousand raised. So let's go ahead and jump right into our top donors of the night. And the largest one thus far is DCC Prime 1, who puts in a $300 donation. Hey! And a big shout out to DCC for that. We also had that $250 that just came in from Nicholas Condor, also a very generous amount to donate as well. We have a $100 donation from Snow White, Hal Rose, some guy called the Enforcer, as always. Hey! We have one from John Albrecht, Mom Cat, Repo Man 46, Ed Olson, Bobby Ibarra, BC Skyman, Ryan O'Ryan. Then we have one from Patrick Mills and BCR. And then we have Psyops, who throws in his signature, 69. Nice. And we have a 50. Yes, we have a 50 from Cyber Tater, as well as Drunky Monkey, Paul Van Manen, Greg Carrier, Maximo Gruyon, Mace, Miranda Nelson, Ron Anderson, Margaret Hemsley, Axel K, Gilly Flower, BC Skyman again, Martin 57, and also Plant Lady. And once again, a big shout out to everyone who donated tonight thus far, because we're currently up to 4.2 thousand, and all the donations, small and large, add up, and it's making a big difference. And even though the U.S. is really having a problem with getting aid to Ukraine right now, the LSA is still delivering. So a big ol' and Enforcer, what say you?
And it is absolutely amazing to see that everyone has been supporting this fundraiser so massively tonight. Of course, I got to give a huge shout out to all of y'all who we were able to call out, and I also got to give a huge shout out to all the people we aren't able to call off. So many of y'all donate to these fundraisers each and every single week. Well, actually each and every single Sunday, that we aren't able to call out every single one of y'all. And so we actually have to have a minimum amount that was thrown in or donated for us to be able to call y'all out. Otherwise, we would probably be here all night. Matthew probably wouldn't be able to manage gathering everyone's names as well. But I want to say to everyone that we were able to and not able to call out tonight, thank you all so much for once again teaming together and helping to support this fundraiser. It is absolutely incredible and absolutely unbelievable to know that we've been able to help out in such a large way again tonight. It's not over yet. We still have another $600 to go, just about. And once we reach that goal, we will have reached the goal for the Lee Spring Army again tonight this week. But I have to thank everyone once again for chipping in so far and helping out this fundraiser the way y'all have, because it helps out the folks of Ukraine greatly. And of course, if you are not able to support this fundraiser, because some of y'all are geo-restricted by YouTube from supporting fundraisers because national laws in your area doesn't allow YouTube to run a YouTube Give fundraiser for y'all. So y'all are actually geo-locked from supporting the fundraiser. If y'all wanted to support Ukraine, however, there is a link in the description below to United24, which you can go to and directly support them there. And so, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I hope to see that we reach a pretty good, and also, what the hell was that, man? I just saw you ban that comment. I was like, why the hell would you say that? This is a war stream. But anyways, we are about to be moving on into the polls. And I don't mean Poland, no, but we do love the Polish people. They're pretty cool folks.
Good Lord.
Damn!
Justin Coleman just put in a $700 donation, and we have reached goal. Jaga, jaga.
Lord! Oh, my Lord. That was crazy. Justin Coleman coming in with a
God.
700.
Uh-oh.
Slam. What?
Something very bad is happening, I think. Let me go check and verify here. Looks like I'm going to do some research before I say anything on it, but it looks like something major is happening right now. But let me do some research.
Okay, I don't really know what that is, but still, we just hit the goal. 5 point, and let me see. 5 point. Let me go and make sure to check the total. $5,114 has just been raised. We just passed the $5,000 goal. And M288 just threw in another 100. Absolutely incredible. Loving to see it. And amazing to know that we have been able to pass the fundraiser goal tonight. We've raised $5.2 thousand in 52 minutes. That means that for every single minute that is passed on stream, we have been able to raise about $10. For every single 10 minutes that passed, we were able to raise $100. And for every 10 minutes that passed, I think we were able to raise $1,000. Absolutely incredible and absolutely amazing to see. And it's wonderful to know that so many of y'all have helped out the fundraiser. And I know I'm saying that so many times, but I'm blown away that we've been able to reach $5,000 so quickly tonight. And of course, the sky is the limit. This doesn't stop anyone from donating to the fundraiser for Razom. You can continue to support it right now, even though the goal has been passed. And y'all can set whatever goal y'all want at this point. And honestly, $7.5 thousand would be a pretty good one to shoot for. But, you know, I'll leave that up to y'all. But, Matthew, what in the world's going on around here?
So I got some messages saying that NATO has called an emergency meeting. I'm doing some looking. I'm having to do it really fast here, so I'm not sure if I'm missing it or something. But a lot of people are warning me about this, and I'm not seeing anything right off the bat about it. But apparently something has happened. I'm not sure where the source of the information is, but with so many people saying it, I would imagine it's probably something to it. But if somebody could provide a source for where you found that information, because I'm not spotting it.
Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything at the moment either. But just to apprise y'all of what we're hearing news that there has been an emergency meeting inside of the NATO headquarters at Brussels, Belgium, I believe. And there's also been some rumors that a Russian missile has exploded inside of Polish territory. We don't really know if that is true at the moment. We haven't gotten any news on our end exactly to be able to confirm any of that. And now I'm seeing some people saying that a British ship has been hit. So there may also be aliens landing right now in the Czech Republic as well.
Yeah,
so,
the claims are kind of widely varying right now. I see some folks saying that Romania was hit with a drone, but they've been hit with many drones, so it depends on where it was hit, if it was even hit today at all. But very interesting.
Very interesting for sure. We're going to try and keep up to date on that as best as possible. If any of y'all actually have any information that you would like to share with us, click on our link in the description below to go to our Twitter and send a DM with the news in it. Of course, please don't send us anything from a tabloid or anything from anyone's name who rhymes with narwhal, because they usually just end up getting the news wrong just as a thing for clickbait. Like hell, I think the last big thing that happened is that everyone said that NATO was going to war because the Russians killed a German tank crew inside of a German tank in Ukraine, which was a straight up lie, because there are no German forces inside of Ukraine. There are German tanks there, but no German crews. The crews are Ukrainian. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well at the moment. And we'll be trying to find some more news about it as best we can. But with that, let's get on into them polls.
All right, and we will keep looking to see if we can find more information about the claims. But I will say, for right now, there's no shred of evidence of anything happening with NATO or any type of emergency meeting. So for now, we can't corroborate that whatsoever, but we will keep looking. But moving on to our first poll of the night. It says the UK says it's deploying Typhoon jets to Poland, troops to Kosovo, and also troops to Ukraine. And what are your thoughts? 72% said it's warranted and keep it going. 12% said the UK needs to calm down a little bit. 10% said unsure, and 6% said, that's maybe a little too much. And I got to say, on deploying Typhoon jets to Poland, I would say that is totally justified and reasonable, and nothing really unusual. Troops to Kosovo, that is a little bit more of a intermediate sort of severity move right there, although it's probably warranted as well. Troops to Ukraine is the one that to me is a little bit questionable because they're sending troops into an active war zone that could carry implications with it of dragging NATO into a war, perhaps. But we're really not sure just yet because it's kind of a little bit vague how that would work in relation to NATO Article 5. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that most most NATO forces, sorry for saying U.S., it's NATO forces, most NATO forces being sent around all over the place, just kind of par for the course, and of course NATO operations as usual. But with Ukraine and the British sending trainers in there, well, instructors in there, that is a little concerning. However, Matthew, I do have to give a little bit of an update to that story. And I'm not exactly sure if this is a correct statement, but I have seen this today. Apparently, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, came out today and actually said that there was no plan to send foreign instructors, well, British instructors into Ukraine, and the defense minister was making a misstatement. I haven't actually seen a video recording of Rishi Sunak saying that yet. I've just seen some internet articles circling around on that. And on that one, that is such a 180, especially coming from the Prime Minister himself of the United Kingdom, that we are taking that one a little bit reluctantly and trying to make sure to fact check that one before we actually make a statement on it. So there may not be British instructors going into Ukraine. That may have been a misstatement by the Defense Secretary of the United Kingdom.
The Defense Secretary Grant Shapps. So if that is true, that you're saying the Prime Minister is not aware of what he's doing.
Stand by. Looks like we're getting DDoSed on the fundraiser night. All right, looks like we're back. So keep it going.
So I was saying that all the statements about the jets going to Poland, as well as the troops going to Kosovo and also Ukraine, all came from the same guy, the Defense Secretary Grant Shapps. So if the Prime Minister is not aware of these statements, that would mean that Mr. Shapps here is kind of going out on a limb on his own and sort of making these decisions unilaterally. And I got to admit, these are pretty decently bold decisions being made, and we don't seem to have any corroboration in the UK government of these things actually occurring, rather than statements from the Defense Secretary himself, which seems a little bit odd to me. I'm not sure how the UK typically works in relation to this stuff, but that's certainly not the way the U.S. works. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, the Defense Secretary came out the other day for Britain. He was like, we're sending troops into Ukraine, Typhoons to Poland, we begin bombing in 5 minutes. He's like, I don't know, maybe they're not going into Ukraine. I would actually largely lean towards the Prime Minister being the word of authority there. Probably not going into Ukraine, but there was no refutation of the claim that Eurofighter Typhoons were being sent to Poland, and there was also NATO troops entering Kosovo at the moment. No refuting to those claims, so those do appear to be true. So going off of that, I would say that what NATO is doing, if there are no British troops going into Ukraine, hell, I consider it perfectly fine. NATO can move countries that are a part of NATO and allies under the same banner can move their forces around wherever they want. If the British or the Germans wanted to send their Eurofighter Typhoons into Poland, who's to stop them? Only the Polish could stop them, and I don't really think they would. They'd be more than happy to have them there. And also with NATO troops entering Kosovo, we recognize the sovereignty of Kosovo as an independent nation from the Serbs, largely because of the genocides and ethnic cleansings that were occurring against the Kosovans by the Serbs way back in the day. Remember the whole move kebab thing. And when I say remove kebab thing, I mean that's what the Serbs called it. Remember that, because that's why Kosovo exists at all, is because we had to step in because they were genociding an entire group of people. So that's why they exist, and I believe that is also incredibly important in ensuring the security of the NATO alliance. And also, Matthew,
Please don't address the bots.
bless that fool. Thank you. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, I'm getting some more information here about the NATO emergency meeting that is allegedly taking place here. Let's see. This is from a little while ago. So I think folks might be looking at an old article, perhaps, because I'm not seeing anything new on it. And I would figure that story would be huge. Like, everybody would be carrying that one at this point. And I don't see anything on X, formerly Twitter, as writers I like to point out, nor news. So sadly can't corroborate that one at the moment.
So sadly, we're going to have to leave that one for what it is. If we can't get any real confirmation for that on Twitter at all, and usually we're the first ones to get to news, we can't really confirm that that is happening right now. If anyone could send us actual verifiable articles and proof that we can work with on stream on our Twitter DMs, we would be greatly appreciative of that, because that would allow us to be able to report on it. But at the moment, we currently don't see it, so we can't really report on it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says, how do you think the U.S. should proceed on providing military aid to Ukraine? It looks like 61% said increase the aid to Ukraine, 30% said keep the aid consistent, 5% said decrease the aid strategically, and 4% said unsure. And on this one, I would have to say that once the U.S. restarts the aid, when they do, I think they should keep it consistent. I don't think there's really necessarily a need to increase it at the moment, because we're providing a tremendously large amount already, and it's better to space it out instead of giving large chunks and then going without aid than simply, spreading it out evenly over time, which is probably the better idea. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to largely agree with Matthew there. Of course, the support that we've been sending has been incredibly good. We are actually, oh damn, Hal Rose just threw in a 330. Oh, well, 300, 333. Damn, man, that's one of those Freemason numbers right there. 333rd degree, man. I mean, you're, man, oh man, I'm telling you.
Don't say anything about that. Don't say anything about it.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I'm scared. I'm real scared. But still, thank you, Hal Rose, for the massive donation to Razom, and of course, helping them to keep it running. The damn media, they're trying to make you sit there and think that you're not supposed to support the fundraisers. But anyways, moving on from that and addressing the poll, I would have to say that I think the support should continue once the 45-day stint is over, and that we should make sure to support the Ukrainians until the end of the war, so that way we can make sure to ensure not only that the Ukrainians end up winning the war, but also to secure our strategic interests in Eastern Europe as well. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, I have to say this because I've been seeing this a little bit more from every side, both sides. We do not have politics on this stream. This stream is not going to take your side, because your side is honestly not that important to take, and that's to everyone. The side that's the most important to take is the side of supporting Ukraine. I don't care what people's political affiliations are, who they are, what color they are, where they come from, anything like that. If you support Ukraine, you are welcome here. Beyond that, nothing else is my concern. And I'm not going to go into U.S. politics and start throwing the blame game around like everyone is trying to do right now in between the two groups. That is absolutely silly and does nothing for Ukrainian support except for divide everyone who supports Ukraine. It's terrible. It's an absolutely abhorrent thing to do, and we also have a rule against political affiliations on this channel. Support, the only thing we make that is clear is support Ukraine or don't be here. We are pro-Ukrainian through and through, and that's the only thing we care about. And now I know that when I say that, someone's going to say, well, Enforcer, that's great, but what about this? I don't really care. If it's not about supporting Ukraine, then I don't care. You can talk whatever you want.
It kills me, because it seems like for some reason, I don't know what's caused it. It's probably because of the aid packages or the bills getting held up in Congress. A lot of pretty popular pro-Ukraine voices are starting to try to drag internal domestic politics into the Ukraine situation, which I made a post on Twitter today about that, or X, whatever you want to call it, saying that basically ends up harming the Ukrainian people, because it costs aid going to Ukraine, because it becomes a partisan issue. And it's really unfortunate to see, because some people take the opportunity to express their political views and mix it up with Ukraine, and that ends up alienating at least 50% of the people that might have supported Ukraine in the first place, which is a shame, because they don't suffer from it. The people saying that, the innocent men and women in Ukraine, are the ones that end up taking the brunt of that suffering because of those statements.
And also, as soon as you start to try and divide a topic down political lines, you end up losing half of everyone. Because a lot of people in this country can actually agree on most everything. If you ever go out there and you're say a Democrat or a Republican, and you talk to a Democrat or a Republican, whatever's opposite of you, you will actually find out that y'all agree on almost everything. It's a very small group of topics that y'all disagree on. But I will promise you this, as soon as one of those topics that y'all agree on, bubbles up to the level that it becomes a campaign policy for a certain group, you will see that the other side will immediately pick the opposite. That's just how it goes. If you just keep everything largely neutral and don't go throwing around the blame game, almost everyone can get along with everything that's said inside the United States. Not a lot is really that controversial. Most people agree on most things except for maybe a handful of items, and those are the largest ones that everyone talks about. But nevertheless, supporting Ukraine is something that almost everyone in the country, I would say at least 75% of people in the United States, support Ukraine. And that's been a certainty since the start of the war. It still is a certainty now. And so trying to throw, like 40% of those people under the bus, or 35% of them under the bus, just because it feels good, and it once again puts the American politics back on its soapbox and makes it more important than Ukrainians dying every single day, it does not do any good whatsoever. It only ends up hurting the Ukrainians, and that is a horrendous thing to do, to try and once again stand on a political soapbox that is resting precariously on top of hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, in my opinion, because I'm telling y'all, we are not having politics here. Even if this channel started to cover news inside the United States, I would still not cover politics. It's an absolute cesspit. And the people who, and I say this as a general thing, this is actually my honest opinion on politics, most of the people who are heavily politically minded are a group of that cesspit. Like, and I don't mean that in a very rude way. I know that some of y'all are probably very political, and that's up to y'all, but whenever you look at people who are involved in politics just massively, a lot of them sound not that good from any direction. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Just Chillin', who put in a $169 donation to the fundraiser and got us up to $6,000, almost even. I think it's $62 above $6,000. So big thanks to Just Chillin'. And we also have a 100 from M288, as well as a 50 from Surprise It's Us, and a 50 from April Rains. And a big shout out to everyone else who has helped get us up to $6,000. We are now officially $1,000 above goal.
And I gotta say, absolutely amazing. In nearly just 1 hour of the stream, we've been able to raise $6,000 for Razom, and the Lee Spring Army is going off tonight. It's absolutely going insane. And so, thank you to everyone so much, once again, for helping this fundraiser to get to where it is, because y'all are helping to save the lives of people over there in Ukraine. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our first question from the live chat is going to go to our Morse code decoders of the stream. We have Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, and Tight Lines LSO. And I said tonight's Morse reads, the Ukrainians are going to get them now, and slow Ukraine, and long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And I gotta say, absolutely amazing that y'all were able to get that right on the nail again. It's the 585th day of the war, and once again, the Morse code message was deciphered correctly. I've gotta say, absolutely incredible, and thank you so much once again to y'all for making sure to get that Morse code message correct. And also, looking through, very interesting comments are being said in the live chat. I was just trying to read them there and see if we could pick one just straight out of the live chat right now. But with that, we are on to the second to last question of this segment.
And this one goes to Bob P., who says, will you treat that Serbia is causing unrest in Europe, and it can hardly be a coincidence as much as it plays into Putin's hands?
It actually kind of is a coincidence. A lot of people want to make it sound like the Russians were the ones to stoke this fire, but that's because a lot of people haven't been paying attention to what's been going on in Serbia. Because, and I'll explain why, this is the general mindset, and I'm not trying to throw blame around or anything, but this is what I've seen even here. We have tried to delve into world news before, for example, what's been going on in Sudan, and it seems like more people are starting to focus on the civil war in Sudan because now the Wagner was operating down there, and now we've also heard that the Ukrainians are possibly getting involved in taking out a warlord here and there inside of Sudan as well. And now people are starting to care about it. But back in the day when we actually tried to cover that, a lot of people just made it clear and were, in fact, very hostile that they did not care and they did not want to hear about it. And so then, you know, you miss months of what happened, and then you come in later, and then people just go with an assumption that isn't really true given the facts that have been going on. The situation in between Serbia and Kosovo is once again a play in between the Western world and the Russian world. The Serbians are a part of the Russian world, the Kosovans are a part of the Western world. But At the exact same time, this really has nothing to do with the Russians. When we've watched this unfold for a year, we've also tried covering this news a little bit on this channel. You can see that this was a very organic development in between the Kosovans and the Serbians. It was just the building up of tensions in between the two. It started when the president of Serbia's son was driving recklessly through Kosovo, and the Kosovan police pulled him over, detained him, and also impounded his car, which pissed off the Serbian president and the Serbian government. So then they did a little trick with the license plates, saying that Kosovans that were living within Serbia with Kosovan license plates were now going to have to get Serbian license plates instead, and they were going to be fined or arrested if they still had Kosovan license plates, meaning that they were now going to be stopped from crossing back into the Kosovan border, which they are technically allowed to by a treaty in between the two parties, which then that started to escalate tensions. And so then in return, the Kosovan border guards started to face down the Serbian border guards at the border and started to get into small clashes, not firefights, but clashes with them, to make sure that the Kosovans within Serbia, just across the border, can once again cross back into Serbia. And so all this stuff that's been happening in between the two has now led, once again, to another diplomatic row in between the two, to the Serbs moving 3 full brigades of the Serbian army onto the Kosovan border, and Kosovan forces then moving to mostly the eastern portion of their border, and then requesting further NATO support. That's kind of what's been happening over an entire year at this point, and to someone who, and to folks who haven't been watching what's been going on in Serbia intently or a little bit, it seems like this is something that Putin said, I need you to invade Kosovo, Bled. And then the Serbians just started to attempt to invade Kosovo. But that isn't the case. This is something entirely in between the Kosovans and the Serbs. And of course, the Russians back the Serbs and the West backs Kosovo. But that doesn't mean that both sides were actively in there trying to stir the pot and get this thing rolling. Because honestly, both sides would probably wish that this wasn't happening at all, even the Russians, because the Serbs are going to ask the Russians for the support, and the Russians aren't going to have any support to give them or any way to even get the support to them. So this is probably something the Russians want to avoid as well, but publicly they're going to go, yes, kill them, because that's what the Russians do. They always want to be looking like they're stirring up chaos, but at the same time they're probably like, calm down, don't do that, because we have no way to back up y'all right now in this whole conflict. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And also, Matthew, was that the last question of this segment?
So it wasn't, but real quick to end off the segment, instead of covering one more for now, we'll save it for the last segment. I just want to say that I seem to have gotten to the bottom of the alleged NATO emergency meeting that everyone's talking about. It appears to be an old BBC article that someone apparently dug up from a year ago, back in 2022, and it's not current. So I'm not sure who put that out, but it's definitely not recent. I'm not sure if that was an unintentional error or intentional, but it's definitely not right now. So there doesn't appear to be any type of NATO emergency meeting. The only one scheduled for now is a regular meeting, which is obviously not pressing. So it looks like we're good.
And also, before we move on, I did see a question I want to answer. Bayratus said, was Serbian territorial integrity violated with Kosovan independence? It was an autonomous region, right? No, kind of, sort of, but not really. Because there's a difference in between what's going on in Ukraine, if there's trying to be a similarity made there, and what's going on in Serbia. What's happening in Ukraine are falsified statements. They have no merit to them. There is no evidence of the Ukrainians committing genocides against the Russian people who live within the borders of Ukraine. There has been no proof of that. The only proof of that are Russian statements that have never been validified with actual picture proof. What we have seen is that the Russians have ended up killing Ukrainians in very large numbers. We do have plenty of video proof of that, conducting genocides and ethnic cleansings against the Ukrainian people, ethnic suicide as well. Well, not ethnic suicide, but ethnic genocide. They have shot down a commercial airliner and killed 176 people. They have done many things, and there's a lot of proof to back up what the Russians are doing, and that's a violation of territorial integrity. However, it's completely different when you have the former Yugoslavia break into multiple different countries, and then the ethnic groups within that country begin to fight each other and conduct a genocide. Like the Serbians, for example, conducting a genocide on the Kosovans. There's a little bit of a difference there because there is hardcore proof and evidence that was received by NATO before we actually got involved inside of Kosovo, or whatever y'all like to call it. We're going to try and call it Kosovo from here forward because apparently that is the right way to say it. but there was actual proof of a genocide happening in Kosovo, which led to NATO, a disinterested third party for the most part, stepping in the breakup of the former Yugoslavia and trying to protect the Kosovans from the Serbs, because the Serbs were committing an ethnic cleansing against them. Of course, we were able to secure them we were able to make them a semi-autonomous region. We recognize their sovereignty as an independent country, but they largely act as a semi-autonomous region from Serbia that is able to protect the rights and interests of the Kosovans, which are culturally completely different than the Serbs. The Serbs are an Orthodox group of people. The Kosovans are actually Muslim, and so there's a lot of religious and ethnic tensions that surround the two that have existed for a very long time, really, ever since about the 1700s or so. So that's why they exist. And of course, that argument's made over many countries in the world. That's also an argument being made for the Kurdish people who live in northern Iraq, northern Syria, and southern Turkey. There's a large argument made that something like Kosovo should exist for the Kurds, and it kind of does in Iraq a little bit, but not in Syria or Turkey. But anyways, I hope that does address that fairly well, because while it technically is a semi-violation of Serbian sovereignty, at the same time, there was a whole genocide going on there, and this wasn't anything to really secure NATO interests either, because Kosovo isn't a part of NATO, and we only get involved once it looks like the Serbs are going to once again try and quash the Kosovans again and try and oppress their rights as a different cultural group. So that's kind of the difference. But still, with that, hope that does address it further well, and we are moving on out of this question segment. And Matthew was like, we're going to run overtime. And yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, this explanation is going on so long. But anyways, with that, it's now time for us to finally move into our location unknowns, because we found Bliat Man. And Matthew, you're not going to believe it, man. I found the Russian superhero Bliat Man.
Who's Bliat Man?
Well, I'll show you, Matthew. Bliat Man, Bliat Man. Steal his refrigerator in the night. Look at him. He is fast. Look at that. Fire the rocket. Look out. Here comes the Bliat Man. And we see Bliat Man. He hears the RPG. He's doing his thing. He's getting up there with the RPG. Look out! Here comes the Bliat Man.
I don't know what to think of this. Okay.
А теперь, Форест, беги, блядь.
This guy's either the most popular guy in the unit or the most hated, one or the other.
Or he's the most stupid guy in the unit, one or the other. But Matthew, we actually have it now. Bliat Man. And I gotta say, what an idiot. What an idiot. Took out all of his body armor, his helmet, and everything for a joke. Like, that is a stupid joke right there, if I've ever seen one. But, you know, then again, their helmets are airsoft, their body armor is cardboard, so it's not really like it was going to help him anyways. But that is absolutely insane and very stupid. But there y'all have it. It is the Russian Bliat Man, literally on the front lines. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from that little thing. And you know what? I think the Ukrainians should up that one by wearing that Travis Scott Batman costume that made him look like a roach because it was brown. And they should go out there with that thing and fire an RPG at them while looking like Roach Batman. But anyways, moving on from that one and into the next one, we also got to see a little bit of a spring cleaning gone wrong. This Ukrainian just got done raking this area, and it's clean. And so now he's going to try and take the rake and throw it right back into the garden shed where it came from. And he kind of missed the mark. Oh! I gotta tell you, that's something that FPS Russia would do. I'm telling you, man. Look at this. He's got a rake. He throws it at a landmine.
Man, he'd be wilding out here. Good
Man,
Lord.
he really do be wilding. What happened to the rake?
I wonder.
Man, I wonder. Because I don't know. But anyways, Pretty
You can
interesting.
be like that guy on the news, like, yeah, I can't wait to get out there in the garden with, all the rakes and the hose.
Man, gotta love the hose. I mean, and dude, he said that so smoothly too, and then he had to immediately go. Anyways, back to the weather because he was like, "Oh crap, that came out so bad." Dude, I don't know why people on the news, like local news channels, are always so serious. It's like you can, like, crack up a minute, be like, "That's."
I don't know.
right.
That one might be fire worthy. That wasn't a joke.
Well, no, I mean, well, that didn't come out the right way. Say something like that and then just move on. Instead of acting like, okay, like, there's someone putting a gun to your head. But anyways, moving on into the Russian casualty report. Russian casualties today have been exquisite. 1 Bobcat skid steer.
Yes, 1 bobcat. Look at that dancing meme over there. What is that? A cat?
That is a cat. Boop. There we go.
Wow.
I like it. Respect it. And thank you, Lauren, for throwing in a little 1 Bobcat. And also a cat that appears to be cracked out. Call this thing a Coca-Cola cat because it'd be on that cocaine. But anyways, 440 Russian troops have been taken out over the past 24 hours, 7 armored personnel carriers, 29 supply trucks and fuel trucks, 11 main battle tanks, 30 artillery systems, 37 drones, 2 MLRSs, and the 1 Bobcat skid steer, and also 1 plane. We didn't get to hear what plane it was, but that does bring the aircraft losses up to 316, which is 1 higher than it was the day before, which was 315. We also see that the aircraft losses now match the helicopter losses, helicopter to helicopter, plane to plane. They are both at 316 right now, and hopefully we'll see those climb up to 400 or so. And so with that, I hope that does address the losses quite well. And with that being said, I know many of y'all who have been around forever have wondered where that phrase went, but we're going to try and bring it back tonight. And with that being said, we're moving on from the casualty report and on into the northeastern area of the front line near Novotarasivka, where we got to see some destroyed Russian positions. And y'all are going to love this. We can see a burned out T-72B3. Nice. We can see more of the burned out T-72B3. Nice. We can see even more of it. Nice. We can see some parts of it. Pretty decent, pretty cool. We can see here what appears to be some kind of a AC unit. It's not, but it looks like one. We can also see a burned out position right there. We can also see some shell holes and what appears to possibly be a Bunsen burner right over there in the corner. We can see some more parts. This appears to be a field kitchen that's rapidly disassembled itself. Who knows why or how. We can also see an abandoned generator. Pretty cool. We can also see a little burned out fire pit area. We can also see more of it. And the generator again, we got a second view of it because it's really cool. And then we also got to see a little part of a burned out something. And then this last clip here, we got to once again see the weird AC unit looking thing that's kind of sitting on the ground. But very nice to see the kind of losses the Russians were able to take. We saw that they lost a T-72B3, a generator, and possibly some kind of a small AC unit. Moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see the 82nd Brigade hitting Russian forces. Whoa. Man, dude, that thing be mechanically dropping bombs.
Dude, look at that. It's got laser eyes, too.
Man, let that thing cook, man. Just let that thing cook.
Man, that logo on the left over there, I don't know about that.
Geschlägt like man, get you
Yeah.
But we can see a pretty decent explosion occurring from that drone. And I gotta say, Eagle, what do you think down there in the bottom left corner? Geschlägt like man, a deutschen Volk. But anyways, we can see them hitting another Russian position right there. And we can see another FPV drone coming in and hitting that giant stack of mines. And oh my lord, everything in that field just lost its damn hearing forever. Look at that shockwave. Good lord.
Well, I can see it travel, literally.
Dude, that thing literally created a foggy morning. Dang. Pretty impressive. Great to see the 82nd Brigade being able to conduct a little hit like that. And also, wonderful to see the 82nd Brigade, of course, keeping up with the good work. And also, by the way, because I know someone's about to be like, how dare you? We were joking about the symbol. And also, Fighting Finn said, looks Polish, LOL. And you know something? You know something, folks? I'm going to share with y'all something. We've been trying to make a Lee Spring Army flag forever. And one of our last iterations of the flag And let me go pull this up. Polish Army flags. Let me go get it. Because I have to show y'all. Because no one's going to believe me. Some of y'all said that the last iteration of the Lee Spring Army flag looked kind of Nazi. And funnily enough, it was actually being based off of the Polish Army's flag right there. So, you know, there we have it, you know. Folks just giving me a bad time, a tough time, trying to design our freaking flag, and I was trying to design it to look like a Polish army flag, and then everyone said it looked all Nazi and stuff, and you know, so I got to go back and redesign the whole thing now. And we're still redesigning it at the moment. But you know, pretty interesting stuff. A lot of people take pretty normal-looking European stuff. Because a cross like this being on a flag is actually incredibly common in Europe. Very, very common. And a lot of people take that, and because the Germans used something that was kind of in that family of symbols in the 1930s and 40s, and everyone just says everything looks Nazi now, which is kind of a little silly and very ignorant as far as history goes. And also, BCS 760 said, that's a cross. Yes. Yes, it is. It's a lot like the cross we had on the Lee Spring Army flag before everyone said that it looks like something else. But anyways, moving on from that, I'm okay. I'm just a little disappointed. But moving on from that, we're now going to be moving on into the area of Spatove, where we got to see a Russian 2S3 destroy today. And so here's the clip. Okay, we're going to be muting that. That just blew up my eardrums. And here comes the FPV drone for the SPG. And everything's an abbreviation these days, isn't it, everyone? And we can see it hit the 2S3. There it goes. And it's about to start cooking. Ooh, that thing is cooking. Call it ratatouille, because anyone can cook, especially the Russians. In the
Well, I think the Russians ruined the rats phrase because they're not cooking.
man, they toasting. But anyways, moving on from that, I guess you could say, Matthew, that they don't got that dog in them. But moving on from Spatove.
The Russians single-handedly proved that overweight chef in Ratatouille wrong.
Man, that overweight chef died of a heart attack, man. They did that man dirty. Like, they really
He really did. Like, he really died of a heart attack.
Yeah, he really did in the thing. Well, actually, he died from the grief of getting his star removed. But I think they said he died of a heart attack.
I remember that now. Yeah, I remember that now. I was about to say, surely he didn't die of a heart attack. That would have been kind of dark for Ratatouille.
But no. Like, he died, like, from the grief. But they said that he had a heart attack induced by grief. It's like, man, y'all did my man dirty. I mean, that man was just living his life, doing his best. Y'all kill him off. I mean, that was sad. That was really sad. I mean, I would have rather had him die in Ratatouille's arms. But anyways, that's getting completely sidetracked here. We got to move on into the Bachman area and into the Solidar Severus part of the front line, where we saw that the K2 unit was able to destroy a blockhouse today. I'm going to be muting that, but we can
sounds
see
like Interstellar or something.
Kind of does. It sounds like they're about to be docking the vessels. But we can see the little blockhouses here and the ways of approaches, trenches, and so on laid out in the area. And we see the drone moving its way towards the blockhouse.
I just wanted to break the silence.
Well, now I have to keep talking. Here we can see the Ukrainian drone flying over the blockhouse and preparing to drop its bomb. Ukrainian drones produce bombs at quite a regular interval, and during certain seasons of the year, they drop these onto unsuspecting Russians. The Russians are very unhappy to receive the bomblets, as the bomblets bring great harm and despair to them and their kin. Nevertheless, the Ukrainians always persist and continue to drop the bomblets onto the Russians. We can now see the bomblet traveling on its way towards the blockhouse. And we can see that in a moment it's about to create some blocks, like Minecraft. And we can see it hitting right there, blowing the place away. Absolutely amazing. In the words of Ukrainian noises that are made when hitting blockhouses, boom, jaga jaga, Igor Bliat. Absolutely incredible. The drone continues to fly away from where the bomblet just dropped, and appears to be observing the fields leading up to the bunker. We can now see a second drone has arrived and has decided to feed upon the Russians hiding inside of their nest. The Russians, completely dazed and disoriented from the first Ukrainian attack, have no idea what's about to be coming to them next.
Excuse me, Sir Richard. What happens next?
They grease the bastard.
Oh dear.
Is that your grease gun? Is that your grease gun? But anyways.
And then the Southerner hops out. Well, you're damn right it is.
Well, I'll tell you what. Have you ever wanted to find yourself some kind of a bomb-dropping drone? Well, then you, my friend, are in luck. Introducing the all-new Get 'em While It's Hot drone. It'll make sure to get up there to the front line and drop a bomblet on them before they can even say Waffle House. Check. That's a whole anti-tank mine. That wasn't a bomblet. Dude, it's Baba Yaga!
Oh? Where's Baba Yaga?
Baba Yaga Blade. It's this drone. It just dropped a whole landmine on those poor people. Oh, this is going to get him good. Ooh, oh my god!
Yikes, that was a landmine, yes.
That's just Matthew turned into an AI. Oh, wow. Oh my god! Herded corgis!
Dang, the herd corgi's coming in strong. There's 2 corgis in the profile picture. Two of them.
That was literally so much support sent to Razom. The video literally said, continue to work, continue route work, confirm. It's like, what the hell, dude? The video even stopped for that one. $7.4 thousand is what we've reached. We are $120 away from reaching $7.5 thousand. That is the biggest donation to Razom for Ukraine tonight. And I gotta say, Herd of Corgis, you are repping the set for the Herd of Corgis. And of course, we are a part of that Herd of Corgis because we have 2 precious Corgis that live with us. Sheba and Monsu will work, or Mr. Corgi for short. But still, thank you so much for that massive donation and helping to save the lives of people over there with Razom. Man, that was insane, honestly. It's completely thrown me off from trying to joke around with making voices while this clip plays. Man, but I'll tell y'all something. If anyone starts messing with you, just punch him in the mouth. Make you pigeon.
Excuse me, sir. Could I have some more?
Please, sir. May I have some more?
Please send in the drone again, please.
This is near Verknum Kamyanka.
Oh, Vecchio Kamyanka. Oh, wonderful city.
Oh, I can't say the rest of that, but anyways, here we can see the Russian bunker now deposited across the street. The Russian nest has been destroyed along with the Russians inside. JD Manka said, may I have another?
I mean, why would you drop 1 bomb on the Ruskies if you're not going to drop 2? I mean, it's common sense.
You know what's crazy, though, is that the British make up 10% of our audience. Like, that's actually...
That is crazy. I'm sure they're really pissed off about these impressions.
Yeah, they're actually the second largest audience on this channel behind the Americans, which make up 50%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there goes the anti-tank mine, which then lands right near the bunker. It appears that they're going to just make sure to double tap the thing, which is a pretty solid strategy. And there it goes.
Those mines are like small nukes or something.
They are, man. I don't know what kind of explosive filler they have in them, but it's got to be one of the most potent kinds out there because the explosions are huge. And we can see them asking to continue to work again. And yes, keep working. And by the way, to share with you all some interesting facts while we watched them survey the damage during the broad daylight, and show y'all what this bunker looks like right now. Y'all would probably be very interested to know. Our three largest groups of viewers are the Americans at 50%, the British, I believe, at 10.4% exactly, and then the Australians at 9.7%. And then I believe from there it goes, the Germans are actually the fourth largest viewer group, and then it's Canada, which I think is the fifth largest viewer group. Or I think Canada and Germany actually are swapped. It may be the Canadians that are fourth, and the Germans that are fifth. But that's really bizarre to me that the Germans are even in the top 5, considering that most of all 4 countries that are in our top 5 list are English-speaking countries. New Zealand is actually, I think, 7th or something like that.
Yeah. Some people are coming in hard on the British. Good Lord.
Man, why are we hating on the Brits? And Ing 3680 said, being English and living in London, I think you do a fantastic English accent. And then put a little okay sign. And thank you for that. Because some people, they crap on my voice impressions. And you don't know how much effort I put into them. You really don't. But anyways, moving on from that and into the area of Popasna, we also saw a Russian surveying some damage that was caused to a Russian armored vehicle after a HIMARS round impacted nearby. Okay, well, we can see the tungsten ball bearings have hit the side of the APC, peppering it up. And now we can see that it's got that nice bubbled texture. It's kind of like an arrow bar from Britain. We see that it's gotten the windows as well. Just peppered everywhere.
Is that a Z?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh. Oh. Now with that, that's the end of the clip. And we're going to be moving on from that one and on into our next one in the center of Bakhmut, where we got another picture showing a single street inside of the city. And that's what it looks like today. That's actually the dead center of Bakhmut. And if I can find that for y'all real quick, I'll try and geolocate that. Because this was actually right down there, right at that corner of the street, is where every single video was taken by the Ukrainian army when they were holding Bakhmut. And they would say, see, this is the city center, we still hold it. And they took videos there almost up until the very day that they lost that square during, I think, January. But let me see if I can find that real quick. It is... It's not the train station. It's somewhere over here, I believe. Nope. It's somewhere over here. Nope. It's somewhere around here. Let me look for more things to identify this area. Okay, there was kind of a square there. It's an electronics store of a sort, but we gotta find it. And that's the problem. I could never really find this way back in the day either. It was actually quite a difficult spot to see. But one day we shall find it. I think this is it. Well, this is not it. This is Democracy Manifest. But sadly, I can't find it. At least at the... Wait a minute. There it is. This is it right here. This is the street we're actually looking down, looking north. That's what it looks like today. And let me see if I can show you what it looked like back in the day, because we actually have a... So it should load. It should load. And this is what it looked like in 2016. See it all right here. There's the park over there to the right side, which would be right there. And then when we look over here, actually right there. These buildings are actually way down there on that part of the street. And then the Allo store, which is down there in this building.
Also, we're absolutely like dying here on the lag.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, we are. Man.
Not again.
I'm telling you, that's eating up precious time in this news segment, because it's been going on for an hour and 40 minutes, and we still have a decent amount to cover, so we might have to just start moving through the video clips and not really add a lot to it. So let's hope that the lag subsides here. Of course, getting DDoSed. And when people say you're not getting DDoSed, believe me, we've actually tested, and we did see that we were being DDoSed by someone using a VPN that was based out of the Netherlands. So we are in fact being DDoSed when this stuff happens, especially when the call quality and our internet is still working perfectly fine on our end, and it is right now. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from that geolocation right there, and we're going to be moving on out of Bakhmut and also out of Ukraine, and we're now going to be moving on into the southern flank near Klishkivka, where we saw a Russian unit of tanks being destroyed. And you see these videos, if we're still lagging, these videos loading this quickly, and also the fact that Matthew can hear me with no delay tells me that we were being DDoS, because otherwise everything wouldn't be working, but our internet is just pumping out the videos and also making sure that our call quality is fine. But we see here the Russian forces lining the tree line, but you see that this is near Klishkivka. And we see the Ukrainian helicopters firing off their rockets. And also, Garrett, no, I don't think you're understanding. They're DDoSing our connection to the YouTube server. And from what we can tell, it's some kind of a massive influx of viewers that they send, because our viewership always goes from a pretty normal number. And also, we're going to have to be moving on from that clip, but you can get a pretty good gist of what it is. But whenever we have a DDoS attack that occurs on this channel, you will see, if you look very carefully at our live stream viewership, that it spikes by nearly 1,000 people each time before it happens. And what we believe that is a bunch of fake YouTube accounts that are bots that are being thrown at this channel that all hop on at a single time. The YouTube server can't handle with it, so it lags out the stream quality. That's what we're kind of thinking at the moment with how it works. And also someone's like, you can't DDoS YouTube. Oh, you can. People are getting hacked into today. It's a whole circus. But anyways, moving on from that, here's another clip of Russian forces being destroyed. These are actually some Gyansen artillery pieces. We see the Gyansens getting hit pretty heavily. And we see them continuing to strike Russian forces in the area. And we can see right there an AS-90 giving out the heat. That's actually a British SPG. They're somewhat limited in number. We can see them hitting a D-30 right there.
A D-30, that's like a bulldozer, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a bulldozer too. 2S4. A VVM. Hit that VVM. And we see them hitting it. And that's the end of the clip right there, but pretty impressive stuff. Moving on from that and into our next clip, even further south near Avdiivka, we got to see that the Ukrainians were able to capture a prisoner overnight in this area, which is, of course, great to see. Moving on from that clip near Avdiivka, and even further on down and into the area of Vadine, we also got to see a little bit of a talk with Madyar. Really quickly, though, sadly, we won't be able to watch this tonight. This clip is about 7 minutes long, and we are quickly running out of time right now, considering the massive amount of lag attacks that have been conducted against the stream. They've eaten up a lot of precious time, and our news is way behind schedule. We usually will be rounding out the news by this point and playing the speech from Zelensky, and so we're trying to start moving towards that direction a little bit faster. But moving on into the area of Yaharivka, we also got to see the 68th Brigade hitting Russian forces. Also, I'm going to have to mute that, but we can see the drone hovering a little nade under it, and the Russians going, oh, bleed! And so he starts sprinting. But we all know that them Ukrainians got that lead. Man, call them a crazy girlfriend because they got that lead on you. Oh, man, he's still going. I'll tell you, he was still running.
He was running fast.
We see them dropping another bomblet onto Russian forces. That one appears to have been an incendiary. That means it burns.
That does. It does. Oh, he ran out there like, it's getting a little hot.
Man, he hopped out there, man. Like, this shit hot. And then he went running away. But you see his little
He looked at that
outpost.
fire like you'd never seen it before. Like, oh, bleed out fire. Never
Dude, he
seen
probably
that.
never seen that before, man. If he lived out in the steppe, he's probably only seen like a lightning, and that's about it.
Did he just kick that dude?
I can't tell. I'm kind of confused about what's going on here. Actually, the guy's moving through some kind of a creek. Or a still puddle of water. Bet you that smells good. And now he's running for it. Oh, man, he's sprinting for it. He's like Sonic the Hedgehog, man. He's scooting. Oh! I don't even know what's happened there. It's like some kind of a marsh they're dropping bomblets in. Man, they are literally chasing Russians down with these drones. And we see one fall into a hidey hole there. Hidey hole. And then they're going to drop a little bomblet onto these guys running down a path. Ooh, right on the money. Man, someone get this guy a lottery ticket. But with that, we're going to be moving on from that little clip and on into our next one, where we also got to see a drone hitting a naval MTLB, a fairly rare form of MTLB used by the Russians as an MLRS. We can see the drone flying on in, getting ready to hit that thing, and hitting right onto the MLRS launcher.
Instant replay.
Look at that. Trapaholics. We make it look easy.
Walk with your boys. Don't let your drones walk alone.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? At the dollar store. But anyways, we can see it hitting the MTLB quite beautifully. Of course, an amazingly good hit. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that clip and on into our next one, further down the line, and at Robotne, where we got to see some Russian armor getting hit hard. And we all know y'all like some Russian armor getting blasted. Lo-fi hip-hop beats ensue, little rolling skulls at the bottom. You feel like gambling? You feel like gambling death? But anyways, we can see the Russian vehicle burning in the tree line, of course, hit quite well. And we can see that this is the Korn group. Quick, Matthew, sing Korn!
Freak on leash.
And Carlos, no, it's not funny. That's why we laugh at the Russians instead. But we can see the Russians getting toasted here. Quick, everyone, point and laugh. But we can see the Russians, of course, getting blasted once again by the artillery. Pretty effective stuff. And also, hey, welcome in, Lilchi. And we can see the BMPs inside the trees. The BMPs are in the trees. And we see them getting blasted. And we see the BMPs starting to boing. The little scolding in the bottom is distracting me. It's like one of those little audio receptive things for babies that are supposed to, keep them paying attention to the screen. You know how TikTok has the split screen thing, nowadays that I've heard about, where they play like a little video game at the bottom and then another clip at the top. That's what that is, like down there. That's just distracting.
I feel like you're a secret TikTok user. Like, I feel like you're trying to cover that up.
No,
you know
man,
a little bit too much about TikTok.
No, man, I hear the drama people on YouTube giving commentary on that crap, and they go into great analysis on it. And I sit there and listen to it, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. But anyways, we're moving on from that little clip. And also, man, that's rich, because I literally see you sending TikTok memes all the time in that Instagram group chat thing that we're in.
Not TikTok memes. I don't even have that app.
Man, that's rich. That's rich, man. Man, dude, I'm telling you, man. Anyways, we got to see a tour system get hit by a HIMARS today near Tokmak. Oh, it's smoky. And all the crews climbing out there like, what do we do? They're turning the turret manually. Oh. Well, I guess it wasn't able to defend the air too well. And with that, we're moving on from that clip and on to the next one, where we also saw an ammo depot getting blown up in Zaporizhia today as well. Check it out. Take a look. Why don't you? We can see it running into the ammo depot, blowing that one up. Very nice. Very nice. Hold up, this is a duplicate. While I hear Matthew's microphone getting rattled around over there for a second. Moving on
That
from
was actually my poor phone getting a little shellacking by accident.
Yeah, that thing got slacked. I heard I was like, huh. But we can also see an AS-90, a British SPG in operation down here. Of course, absolutely beautiful. Moving on from that little AS-90 and further on down into the area around the village of Tarasivka, we also got to see the Russians getting hit by a HIMARS missile in this area today. All right, there's the missile. They're just playing
Throwback to the 90s.
Throwback to the 80s, man. Throwback to the 80s, bro. That's actually the 60s. We're just getting every single decade on the list tonight. Gee willikers, mister. It's like the 50s up in here, but we can see the Tor getting hit. And I gotta tell you, the Tor getting hit is absolute torture. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But hey, love to see it. Moving on from that, actually it was a Mr. B, not a Tor. Mr. B. But anyways, moving on from that and up to the Dnipro River, we also got to see a Russian missile fired at Ukrainian missiles. It was a Ukrainian position. It was a KH-38. Here's the clip. Also, the railroad bridge has notably been destroyed. You can see the railroad bridge right there, and that's something we've never been able to confirm until now. But we can see the KH-38 missile slamming onto the other side near the railroad bridge. Hopefully, no Ukrainian forces were lost in this attack. Although we can't confirm if there were not any losses. And Greg Huey said pun torture. And yes, I do torture people with the puns.
Enhanced interrogation.
Oh God, man! Everything in this room is white. The rice I'm being fed is white. The plate it's on is white. Everything's white. You know that's actually an Iranian torture method. Did you know that?
I didn't know that either, but I'll tell you, if I was in a room and I saw like a bottle of water and a board laying around or something, I'd be like, huh, you enhancing the technique a little bit? Could you like de-enhance the technique? I could do without.
Dude, you know what would be a real torture thing? Put you in a room and have one of those little concierge things that they have in the hotel room where there's just snacks and stuff and you can take it, but you get charged later and you don't really know about it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's like some... That's enhanced something. Enhanced something.
Torture. But anyways, moving on from Kherson, it's now time for us to get up to Kyiv because we have a speech for y'all tonight. It's quite long. I'm not even going to kid with y'all. It is 14 minutes long. This is a special address by President Zelensky for October 1st, which is, I believe, a Remembrance Day. It's the Ukrainian Remembrance Day. And so, without further ado, let me make sure to whip on them subtitles to auto-translate to English, just in case. But considering that we don't have the option to translate into English automatically, that means he's probably speaking in English. But nevertheless, here is the speech.
Speech.
Шановні громадяни, дорогі народи, що можна встигнути за хвилину? Яке значення вона може мати для історії? Які доленосні кроки можна зробити протягом цієї хвилини? Всі ці питання навіює і сьогоднішня дата, і місце, де я зараз знаходжусь. Позаду мене золоті ворота. Довкола сучасний Київ. Позаду тисячолітня і велична брама, яка захищала вхід до столиці. Перед кожним з нас і задля кожного з нас стоять наші сучасні вартові. Наші бійці вздовж лінії фронту, які захищають нашу землю сьогодні. Над золотими воротами зведена надбрамна церква Пресвятої Богородиці, що служила небесному захисту міста. Небо над нами сьогодні захищають сили ППО і всі наші воїни, берегинею яких є і Покрова. І я, і наш народ, і наша країна зараз, в якомусь сенсі слова, на перехресті історії, на шляху до переломних моментів, де з пам'яттю про минуле ми творимо сьогодення і пишемо нову сторінку своєї долі. Це особливо зрозуміло і помітно у цей день. День захисників і захисниць України. Державне свято, яке стало по-справжньому національним, народним святом. Свято мільйонів українців, які боронять свою землю,
та не зупиняються ні на мить. І сьогодні, рівно о 9-й годині, на знак поваги і вдячності їм, Україна зупиниться на 1 хвилину. Центральні вулиці і площі наших міст, транспорт, всі ми, де б не знаходились, маємо зупинитись і вшанувати пам'ять полеглих, героїв та подякуємо всім нашим захисникам. Цей час – гарна можливість, аби подумати про важливе, згадати важливе, згадати іншу хвилину. Першу хвилину повномасштабної війни. Хвилину, яка змінила все. Розділила життя на до і після 24 лютого. Змінила кожного з нас. І доказом є відповіді на питання, ким ми були до 24 лютого, ким є зараз, яким ми маємо стати. 24 лютого почалось не коли годинник показав опівночі, а коли ворог почав наступ. Для нас перші хвилини того дня – це перші ракети і перші удари по Україні. Звертаючись до наших сил оборони та безпеки, в ту мить я казав: стійте міцно, ви все, що в нас є. І ми дякуємо сьогодні всім, хто стояв, стоїть і буде стояти міцно. Всім, хто першими прийняв важкий бій. Наші прикордонники, наша піхота, танкісти, льотчики, моряки, артилеристи, зенітники, наші десантники, спецпризначенці, розвідка, Служба безпеки України, Національна гвардія, поліція, тероборона. Всі, хто захищає українську землю, море і небо. Чий захист ми щоденно відчуваємо, а відвагу щоденно бачимо вздовж усієї лінії фронту, не зупиняючись, просуваючись вперед в ході триваючого контрнаступу. Коли українці родом з різних областей, міст і селищ зараз разом в одному бліндажі, окопі, в одному танку, літаку, БМП, пліч-опліч на різних напрямках б'ються за села і міста, де можливо. І не бували раніше, але б'ються щосили, як за рідні свої домівки. Бо такими вони всі стали для нас у першу хвилину 24 лютого. Дякуємо всім, хто захищає наші кордони і рубежі, правопорядок і безпеку наших вулиць, захищає наші землі від мін та снарядів, наші оселі від пожеж і вогню. Всі, хто стоїть на захисті України, всі наші сили безпеки і оборони, солдати, сержанти, старшини, матроси, офіцери і генерали, які разом доводять неважливо, що на погонах, важливо, що у головах і серцях. Хто робить це протягом минулих 585 днів і останніх 9 років. І на питання, де я був 24 лютого, чимало хто скаже: в АТО і ООС. Воював на Донбасі, боронив Україну на Сході, а потім на всіх напрямках. Звільняв Краматорськ, а згодом Куп'янськ, захищав Донецький аеропорт, а потім литовище в Гостомелі. Всі ми добре пам'ятаємо день 24 лютого. Без перебільшення можу сказати, що пам'ятаю його майже похвилинно, як, звертаючись до всіх українців, говорив, що відтепер всі ми одне велике багатомільйонне військо. Український народ зробив так, аби ці слова не залишились просто словами, не були гучними гаслами, а стали вчинками. І сьогодні, відповідаючи на питання, що я робив до 24 лютого, чимало хто скаже: я жив цивільним життям, айтішник, інженер, фермер, актор, адвокат. Я був тим, ким мріяв, але став тим, ким мусив. Захисником і бійцем. Бо є миті, коли доля країни тільки у наших руках. І тоді у наших руках має бути зброя. І той, хто був весільним оператором, тепер бачить інші кадри і здіймає в небо дрони, вітаючи орків. Той, хто перевозив пасажирів, тепер доставляє поранених з поля бою. Той, хто змінив приватну клініку в центрі на польовий шпиталь поблизу нуля. Той, хто шив модний одяг, а тепер бронежилети. А хтось скаже, що 24 лютого був на першому курсі. Та вже незабаром проривав першу лінію оборони окупанта. Всі, кому довелось швидко подорослішати. А хтось, згадуючи 24 лютого, скаже: «Я батько». І в перші хвилини я думав про своїх дітей, про день, коли вони стануть дорослими і запитають, а де я був і що зробив після 24 лютого. І я знаю, що відповім. Я пішов нас захищати. І для мене важливо мати цю відповідь. Не лише тому, що хтось колись запитає, а тому, що одного дня, так чи інакше, ти запитаєш про це сам себе. Хтось 24 лютого був у відпустці, був за кордоном, хтось працював там, хтось навчався за кордоном, і тисячі з них, долаючи шлях з багатьма пересадками, а потім навіть пішки, долаючи кордон, повернулись в Україну, аби її захищати. І як мільйони тих, хто був тут, відклали всі справи, роботу, плани, ствердно сказавши: все потім, все після війни, все після перемоги. Дорогі українці, мета цього дня – вшанування хоробрості та героїзму захисників і захисниць, незалежності і територіальної цілісності України, військових традицій і звитяг українського народу. І в перші хвилини 24 лютого і дотепер ці звитяги щодня бачить весь світ. Це мільйони українців, які захищають одне одного. Всі, хто в кожному регіоні взяли до рук зброю і пішли на фронт і ТРО. Всі, хто в кожному окупованому місті взяли до рук українські прапори і пішли на площі. Всі, хто взяв собі за правило: а я не буду осторонь. І щодня робитиму те, що можу. Працювати, лікувати, тренувати, навчати, допомагати, наближати перемогу, як можу. Захищати і забезпечувати потреби фронту, знаходити, купувати, привозити і навіть під вибухами. Захищати і наш, і народи світу від голоду, сіяти, збирати врожаї і попри міни на полях, захищати репутацію держави на дипломатичній арені, підтримку України, відданість нашій боротьбі з боку міжнародних партнерів, захищати свідомість людей, їхні очі й вуха від брехні, дезінформації, паніки, захищати правду, захищати спроможності держави, захищати зв'язок, інфраструктуру, доставляти надважливі вантажі, евакуйовувати людей, рятувати людей, захищати життя і здоров'я українців і на передовій, і в цивільному житті, захищати майбутнє, освіту, знання, дітей і проводити уроки попри все, захищати культуру, захищати віру, захищати один одного. Це всі, хто залишається тут, на своїх місцях, всі, хто щодня каже собі: я можу робити більше, я можу допомагати більше, я можу більше. Дорогі українці, важкі часи зробили нас сильними, а сильні наближають переможні часи. Крок за кроком. Сьогодні, завтра, щодня, щохвилини. Ні планово, ні аварійно. Ніхто не має і не зможе відключити нашу стійкість, витримку, міцність, відвагу. Вони не мають терміну дії, кінцевої дати чи крайньої точки, після якої ми би припинили спротив і боротьбу, окрім однієї – нашої перемоги. Щоденно наближаючи її, ми кажемо: будемо боротись стільки, скільки буде потрібно. Ми робили це в перші хвилини 24 лютого, робимо всі ці 585 днів і будемо робити це надалі. Ми зупинили навалу значних сил ворожої армії, вистояли і не віддали Київ, Харків, Одесу, Миколаїв, Запоріжжя, Суми та ще сотні міст і сіл. Виганяємо окупантів і робимо, і будемо робити це надалі. Ставали міцніші, загартованіші, краще оснащені і озброєні. І робимо, і будемо робити це надалі. Перемогли важку зиму, долаємо ракетні атаки і терор, робимо і будемо робити це надалі. Бути захисником – це робити вчинки щодня. Бути захисником України – це бути щодня з Україною, в Україні, задля України. Позаду нас наша історія, попереду наша перемога і вільна країна, яку ми захищали, захищаємо, захистимо. Важливо, ким ми були. Важливо, якими стали і є зараз. Важливо, ким станемо. Що запитаємо у самих себе в першу хвилину перемоги? Що згадаємо і скажемо самі собі? І коли досягнемо нашої мети, це буде День наших захисників, захисниць і переможців. Ми відзначаємо цей день у свято Покрови Пресвятої Богородиці, народне свято, яке стало державним, Днем захисників і захисниць України. Державне свято, яке стало народним. А коли держава і народ разом, вони завжди перемагають. Слава всім, хто б'ється і боронить батьківщину. Слава нашим захисникам і захисницям. Слава українському народові. Слава Україні!
Героям слава! And Героям слава! And with that, that is the end of the address from President Zelensky here on the 1st of October, the Day of the Defenders. And of course, that is going to be moving us on into the second part of the stream. And also, I gotta say that before we even move on to the second part of the stream, we have reached $7,500 exactly, $7,502 for Razom for Ukraine. Absolutely incredible to see. And I gotta say, damn, son, where'd you find this? And absolutely amazing to know that so many of y'all have helped to support Razom for Ukraine tonight in such an amazing way, in such a large amount, that they will hopefully be able to continue to save a large number of Ukrainian lives and provide vital food and surgery and also medical equipment, so that way people are better off than they were before this fundraiser began. And so with that, we're now about to be moving on into our question segment and covering the polls. I have to let y'all know that we usually try and end our streams at 11:30 local time, 12:30 Eastern time. Due to the length of the news tonight, we only have about 22 minutes starting from now to be able to address everyone who supported the fundraiser in between the last shout-outs and this one, to address the polls and also address the questions. Just wanted to let y'all know that in advance, because it's probably going to be a lot tighter of a question segment tonight than normal. But with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and also happy birthday to Angry Penguin, by the way. I saw he said that in the live chat, and I hope you're having a good one. And also, as always, the LSA loves to know you're having a happy birthday. And with that being said,
he actually clarified. He actually clarified that it's not his birthday.
no, it's always his birthday, like mine.
Oh, for real? On God?
Yeah.
Oh man,
He was mixed up, that's all.
Man, he going wild in the live chat right now. He's like, no! But still, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so calling off all of our top donors since the last time we called them off, we have a 100 from Shannon Jane, a 50 from DB, a 50 from JJS Korfball, and a 50 from Steve Watkins at work, not at home, at work. And a big shout out to all four of you and also everyone else who put in those donations to get us up to $7,500. Tremendous. Like I said before, the U.S., the government, very powerful government, most powerful in the world, can't even come together right now to send aid to Ukraine, but the LSA can, and we're sending $7,500 to Razom, which will help people on the ground directly in Ukraine, and that really does mean a lot to me, as it does y'all. I'm glad to see we had another successful one tonight. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to say, that is absolutely an amazing way to put it, Matthew. The Lee Spring Army started to support Ukraine through fundraisers before the U.S. government had ever sent $1 of support to Ukraine after the invasion on February 24th. And we have continued to support Ukraine by running a fundraiser tonight longer than the United States has been able to keep up. I know that the United States, of course, has sent billions, but we've been able to last it out in the long run. We were here first, we're here last, we're still here, we're still standing, we repping the set, and where the hell is everyone else? I gotta tell you this. I gotta say this, Matthew. When you put it that way, that damn well hypes me up, because we have been absolutely going off supporting Ukraine ever since the start. Nobody has stopped us. No matter how many lies have been said about us by nuts, no matter how much people have been, either gaining support for Ukraine or waning support, the Lee Spring Army is still out here representing for what we are, what we stand for, and continue to help to save the people that we care about a lot and continue to cover the stories of. Absolutely amazing. And when y'all think about it that way, the Lee Spring Army has lasted longer than the U.S. government has as far as supporting Ukraine. And so, hey, we got a little bit of credit there. You know what I mean? And like Il Duce said, these nuts. But I don't know why I had to pick that out. But hey! And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving right into our polls, our first one says, Poland's prime minister issues a warning to Ukraine, alleging that Germany leans pro-Russian, and what are your thoughts? 31% said I disagree, Germany is helpful. 27% said I agree, Germany isn't trustworthy. 25% said, it seems a little bit bold, I don't really know. And 18% said unsure. And on this one, I gotta say, that is definitely a pretty bold statement to make. And considering Poland's history with Germany, they might have some historical reasons to say that. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm sure that plays a factor into it, all jokes aside. But I would say personally to me that Germany is as trustworthy as any other country. You got to keep an eye on every country because they all flip-flop from time to time. And Germany was a little bit funny at first with the relationships between themselves and Russia, but they kind of came around a little bit. So to me, it's not really that big of a deal. But Enforcer, what say you?
Well, I gotta tell you, man, I gotta say that's some pretty strong wordage, but we all know what it's about. But anyways, I don't know why, but that one actually sounded probably the most realistic because I didn't just go like hardcore at it. That actually was kind of a little weird sounding. But anyways,
that one struck fear in me.
Man, oh man, I could probably come up with a string of gibberish that sounded a little bit like it with the same fluctuations, but we'll hold that off for another time. But someone throws in a hundo to the fundraiser right now for Razom, I might go and try my best to try and give y'all the longest Geschlechtverleitment that y'all have ever heard on the channel. But anyways, moving on from that, I would have to say it's very strong wordage, especially considering that the Germans have been supporting Ukraine. Not a lot, like in reality, they pledged a lot, not a lot of it's arrived. Man. Alright, there we go. Oh, man. That scared me there for a minute, y'all. I thought they got us. I thought they really did. Whew. They're going to send another bot wave in a minute. Whew. I'm so scared. I'm terrified. But anyways, I hope that does address that fairly well, because I wouldn't call the Germans pro-Russian at all. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll says, contrary to U.S. reports of withdrawal, Kosovo says Serbia is still preparing to invade, and what are your thoughts? It looks like 50% said I think Kosovo is right, 24% said I need more info first, 18% said unsure, and 9% said I think the U.S. is right. And on this one, I have a feeling that the U.S. is trying to tamp down fears of an invasion of Kosovo by Serbia by saying that they're backing off and retreating. I personally am leaning toward Kosovo's version of this at the moment. I don't think that they withdrew that quickly. And considering what the U.S. said around the situation in Ukraine when Russia was staging their troops on the Ukrainian border as a training exercise, I'm not too inclined to believe the U.S. in the situation. And I think we're still looking at a very tense situation between Serbia and Kosovo that could launch into an all-out conflict at any point. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say they have not withdrawn. That statement actually came out yesterday, and it was a very confusing one, just throwing in confusion to the whole mix. They said, hey, look, they're leaving. And then after that, Kosovo said, they're still here. We need NATO forces now. And then that's when a NATO unit entered Kosovo, or whatever anyone wants to call it. So that's what we know right now. They have not withdrawn, and that statement was most likely misinformed when it was made by some organizations the other day. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I see some people, Matthew, are donating to the fundraiser. Someone threw in a 50, and Thomas Marsh threw in a 20. We haven't gotten 100 yet. And I will keep up my promise. If you throw in 100 to the donation, because so many of y'all find the little Geschlechtverleitment thing to be funny, I will try my best to make one that is as long as possible, not just the Geschlechtverleitment thing, but I'll try and come up with one that sounds a little convincing. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also shout out to SY Tiger 907 who put in a $50 donation as well, and a big shout out to you as well, our friend not from Unakli but from Anchorage. And moving on to our first live chat question in the spreadsheet, we have one from Mark Gagne, who says that when Russia loses and the nation starts to break apart, will Putin use his nukes on his own population?
Possibly. We didn't see that, though, during the Chechen War, the second Chechen War, which Putin was in charge at the time to possibly do something like that. We didn't see it. I'd kind of doubt it, because by that point, the Russian government would probably be so weak that trying to use a nuclear weapon on a rebelling group would probably turn most of the Russians that were loyal to him at that point against him if he was still around. And so, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to King54, who says, do you think Ukraine is gonna get to Tokmak anytime soon?
Don't really know at the moment, because it looked like they were making progress a few days ago, and now they're not really making progress much anymore. The VDV may be committing suicide for the most part as far as their force strength goes, but they may actually be able to hold the Ukrainians back until the Rasputitsa sets in, because now the Ukrainians only have about 20 days or less before the Rasputitsa really does set in, and they only have 20 days to make it to Tokmak. And at the current rate right now, I have to be honest with you, I'm not really sure if they're going to be making it to Tokmak before the Rasputitsa sets in. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Alex77, who says, will there be U.S. conscription? Nah.
U.S. conscription? American
what? In what
conscription?
context?
American conscription?
American prescription.
Prissy. That would never be an American conscription. If something like that was happening, things would be going quite terribly. Dreadful. But really, in all honesty, probably not. America relies largely in the modern world on the professional military, and that's why we have nothing but contract soldiers serving. We don't have any mandatory service or draft that is actually being held at the moment. And I have a feeling that if we went to war with Russians, the war would either last so short or be so devastating there probably wouldn't be a time to call up conscription or a draft. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. Matthew, do you feel that? There's a draft.
A draft.
Yeah, feeling a little drafty here. Let's see. Let's pull up some names. Andrew. Oh no. We're just gonna put that one right back. Disqualified from service. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Andrew, who says, not being political, but is U.S. aid for Ukraine over? And for now it is. For 45 days, I think it is.
No, it's not over. It's over for the next 45 days, but it's probably not over beyond that. We'll probably see more support packages after 45 days ends. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jay Bagwell, who says, did you happen to see the CZ Bren rifles were going to be built under license in Ukraine for their military? And I did see that, Jay. I did see that. It looks like the CZ version of a SCAR. So it looks like almost like a knockoff a little bit, but I guess it's their own unique version of it. But very cool looking, and glad to see that they're getting that rifle, because I think it's going to be a pretty handy one for them.
So this is a CZ Bren, and I did see that. We didn't report on it today because it was a smaller bit of news as far as the news coverage went, but I did see it, and I think that's really neat. Cool to know they're going to have what almost looks like a SCAR. At least the rear part of the stock really does look like a SCAR. And hopefully it's a good rifle, because it seems like the Ukrainians are becoming kind of a bigger fan of the Bren 2 than most folks. Oh, look. Garen Thumb, or Grand Thumb, he made a video on the Bren 2 right there.
Oh, he did. It looks like a SCAR painted up like that.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? But also, Garen Thumb, he made a video on the Bren 2 right there. Oh, he did. It looks like a SCAR painted up like that. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? But also, Garen Thumb, he made a video on the Bren 2 right there. moving on from that, and I hope I answered that fairly well, Jay. And also, I know, Jay, that you are like the big gun guy here on the channel. We know because we've been able to shoot some of your guns, and they were amazing. That you're probably like eyeballing to get your hands on one. And if you do, let us know, because that would be so cool if you do. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Matthew, I've got to give a huge shout out to Mr. Jimmy Jet, who put in a $385 to the fundraiser, bringing it up to
Lord, man.
$8,120. And Matthew, I got to keep up my end of the bargain because it is over $100. And I said if someone sent in a donation over $100 to Razom, I was going to do the longest geschleek verlightment that y'all had ever heard on the channel. So now I got to hold up my end of the bargain, and I got to come up with something for y'all to laugh at. So, Geschlechtverleitment der deutschen Völker, der Kriegsministerie, or something like that, and then it started turning Russian.
Lord,
But
that's enough.
Golly.
Give me like a heart attack.
Geschlechtverleitment der deutschen, but anyways, I hope you did get a good laugh out of that. I said I was going to do it, and I did it. So there y'all have it. There you did it, and it's done and over with, and we can move right on now. But thank you, Mr. Jimmy Jeff, for throwing in a $385 to the fundraiser and getting it on to $8,100. And so with that, now having Matthew having heart palpitations over there because he thought it was 1939 and the Germans were going into Poland again, we're now on to the next one.
All right, and no, Duncan VR, that is not who was talking at all. That
No,
was
that's
just,
not him.
No, that was not him. That was just an imitation of a historic German of some sort. But anyways,
German orators and failed artists. That's all.
Yeah.
No, that's what it said. Terrifying, man. I didn't think it was that bad. But well, it is that bad when you put it in that context. But hey,
now anybody in that accent, speaking that forcefully and in that manner, like Schultz did at that conference or whatever he was speaking at. Nah, man, that'll never go down like sounding appropriate ever anymore.
Man. Dude, Schultz got up on that stage. He said, let's crank that B up like it's 1941. And he went, and I was like, no, don't do it, man. I was like,
man, if they turned the camera around on the crowd, they'd have been like, oh, it's him.
Dude, that guy, Volodymyr Sololiv, sat there and he was talking to someone. He was, and they said, what happened? He said, I felt the force of shoots. Oh man, it's like Star Wars or something. Anyways, with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Jeff, for throwing in $385 to the fundraiser. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Calamity, who says, why is nobody talking about the drone that landed in the Romanian city? And Calamity, I'll be honest with you. I saw that on Twitter earlier. It's not getting a lot of coverage. I don't have all the details on it, though, so I'm trying to scroll down here to see if I do have any information on it to share. Let's see here. And I don't right off the bat, but Enforcer, what have you heard?
I actually haven't heard much about that. There's been a claim about that. I believe it was the town of Galati. But we haven't really gotten enough confirmation on that for me to be able to say that that happened. We never got picture proof or video proof of that. We heard something about Galati and drone news, but we didn't really get enough to be able to report on it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And would y'all be interested to know this? Because I see a lot of y'all joking about the whole thing I just did right there because someone threw in a donation over 100. I've actually tried to learn multiple languages around the world. Russian, Ukrainian, and actually tried to learn Ukrainian before the war because, you know, I had a Ukrainian friend in high school and everything. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I tried to learn both of the languages. Tried to learn Japanese. I gave up on Japanese very quick, though, because it was very difficult for me to even understand, like to grasp. So have absolutely really no idea to speak that. Tried to learn Mandarin. Didn't do well at that either. Really have not done well at a lot of languages except for Spanish, but I've kind of let my Spanish skills drop off so badly, so quickly, that I really can't speak Spanish at all anymore. But have tried. Also included Polish, tried Swedish, tried Welsh, and Scots Gaelic, as well as German. Never tried French, though, because some of y'all are probably thinking, oh, that's it right in between Britain and Germany, must have tried French. Nope, never have tried French, never tried a Romanic language at all. But maybe one day I will try and learn one. But with that, Hope that does address that fairly well. I'm a huge fan of languages and learning languages, and I'm a really big fan of trying to keep languages alive, like the conservation efforts in the United Kingdom of trying to preserve the Welsh and Gaelic languages is something I'm a really big fan of, because once you lose those languages, you never get them back, and nobody ever really understands how they were spoken by actual native speakers, and it's just something that's lost to history, much like Latin. Nobody actually knows how Latin is pronounced. Everyone just kind of guesses at it, and different countries have different rules based off their own native languages on how Latin is pronounced. So that's something I'm kind of a big fan of, is keeping languages intact, but that has absolutely nothing to do with the Geschlechtverleitment thing. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Amando Mavicus, who says, "Hey guys, and do you think there's any particular reason why the UK in particular is pushing the boundaries more than most throughout the war?"
I don't really know why. Maybe it's just it's a British thing. The British are always kind of ones doing that, especially with as far as Europe goes. But I have no idea. All I got to say though is huge credit to them. I mean, they've got a lot more balls than most people do. I just hope that they start to wrap up their military spending to be able to match that. I honestly, not being British, so, I can't tell y'all what to do. I'm an American, so that's kind of y'all's deal over there in Britain to come up with what y'all want to do and what y'all are fine with. But if I was British, I would be shooting for a goal for the land army to be about 150,000 in size in the next year and a half, and I'd also be trying to ramp up the military spending where you can fieldable units out of a 150,000 man army. That would be increasing the size of the British Army by 100%, and it would also be bringing the British Army back into a size that would be acceptable for the kind of economic output the British have at this point in their history. But that's just me. I mean, that's up to y'all in Britain to really come up with, because, nobody likes it when foreigners tell them what to do in their country, and honestly, I don't think it's my place to tell British people what to do, but, as being a part of the same alliance, I heavily encourage everyone to always do their part and make sure that their military will be as strong and mighty to be able to stand with the rest of them. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, just out of curiosity, I'm going to say something in German because I want to know actually how many people in the chat can speak German. And this is going to sound very butchered, but the German people will probably be able to understand what I'm saying. Ich denke, dass Deutsch eine gute Sprache ist. And we'll see how many people in the chat actually know German.
Man,
I know I said that probably horribly said, but you should be able to understand it.
Man, I'm about to put you to shame. I'm about to put you to shame. I'm about to pull that U.S. politician move that's as old as time, Matthew. I'm about to try and speak Spanish. But let's see, who got it?
Suter Bowling got it. And they said that was pretty butchered. And I can imagine it was, because I've heard some German speak in English that try to have a good English, and they really don't know it. And I'm sure it sounded about as good as that.
Man, well.
Oh, Fuyuma got it too.
Oh, look at that, man. Actually, people actually know German around here. Would you look at that? We got some polyglots in here. I like that. Really cool. I wish I actually knew languages well at all. And but anyways, with that, and Dad Good just threw in a 50 New Zealand for that. Hey, thank you so much for supporting Razom, Dad Good. You are a good dad, Dad Good. And so with that, hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
I don't know what people are expecting. I don't know German worth a crap. I only took one class in high school. Some people are saying, "Man, that is so butchered." Man, I don't know German hardly at all. I literally just tried to recall that off the top of my head. And also I saw somebody say, let's see here, blah blah blah. Let's see here. Where was I? I lost it. Someone said LOL German with a deep southern accent. Ich denke.
Man, turn into Arnold.
Sprechen Deutsch.
Hello, my name is Arnold. They actually wouldn't allow him to just speak German for the German dub in movies because he sounded like a German redneck. So they had to go and get another guy to dub him when they showed his movies in Germany.
Really?
Yeah, because
also thanks, Peter Chef. I appreciate it.
Because his German accent is actually from a rural area of Austria that is considered by the Austrians a lot like the redneck accent of the South. It's considered to just be backwards and dumb sounding to them, and that's really big disservice to people who have accents like that. Because it's man, way to judge people off the bat. But anyways. Yeah, so no one in Austria or in Germany that have ever listened to his movies actually know what he really sounds like because it's dubbed over with another guy's voice. And Donald Skibbo just threw in another 50 Canadian. Absolute champ.
Let's go.
But with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. And we are on, I think, to the final question of the night, Matthew.
All right, and the final one of the night.
Wait, I forgot to do the thing. Yeah, I forgot to do the thing. And so we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Haviland Tough, who says, question, why doesn't Ukraine recruit their own Gurkha regiments? If for nothing else, their reputation would scare the shite out of the orcs.
And that's true. The Gurkhas have a very prominent reputation in the military world for being some of the best fighters out there. And just in case y'all don't know what a Gurkha is, the Gurkhas are a special unit of the British Army that is composed entirely of Nepalese volunteers. It spans back to the days of the British Empire, back when the British had a large stake inside of the Indian subcontinent. And a part of that was actually Nepal. And from Nepal, they were able to raise this unit called the Gurkhas. And the Gurkhas have their own special history, traditions, and customs. They also follow over into their unit as well. And they also have this very famous little knife called a kukri, which is actually bent about halfway up, and it looks absolutely wicked. I mean, it looks like it would be a bad knife to get cut with. But nevertheless, really cool group of folks, the Gurkhas are, and they are hard fighters as well. They really earned an amazing reputation during the Falklands War. And I bet you the Ukrainians would love to have Gurkhas, but I don't know if there's that many Nepalese volunteers allowed. I also don't know the position of the Nepalese government as far as volunteering for foreign armies goes. Because while they allow the British to raise volunteers from Nepal and, of course, have a Gurkha unit, that might be an exception to their laws. Because Switzerland actually has a law that forbids the Swiss citizens from becoming mercenaries or soldiers of fortune. And the only exception is the Pontifical Swiss Guard in Rome that protects the Vatican. That's the only exception that they make, and that's the only place you'll see Swiss citizens serving in any kind of an armed force outside of Switzerland. And I think maybe Nepal has some kind of a law like that, but still would be really cool because the Gurkhas are great. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Haviland Tuft, really good question, by the way, and I love that you brought up the Gurkhas. They're one of my favorite units in the British Army, next to the Household Guard. The Household Guard is, of course, my favorite. Got to be mainstream like that. They're really cool. But still, it is the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much for being here tonight. At the peak of the stream, there was 6.8 thousand of y'all on live as Heart of Lion throws in a 100 Canadian, getting the fundraiser up to $8.3 thousand. There was 6.7 thousand of y'all on tonight. And for every 6.7 thousand of y'all, we were able to raise $8,311 for tonight's fundraiser, which was for Razom for Ukraine. That's $8,311 will be going directly to Razom for Ukraine through YouTube, and will be able to support medical operations and also food aid for Ukrainians that have been displaced and have been wounded and injured because of this war. Y'all have all done, once again, another amazing service tonight as a community of the Lee Spring Army, and I gotta thank every single one of y'all for once again helping to carry the banner of the Lee Spring Army forward in our goals and ideals of making sure to help us to support the Ukrainians until the very end of this war. And so thank you all so much once again for watching tonight. I hope you all have an amazing Monday. Of course, we will not be running a live stream tomorrow. We will be taking the day off as is custom on this channel, but we will be back on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Once again, long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army never dies. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, and of course, long live the Lee Spring Army.
And good night, folks. Thank you all for another successful fundraiser. 8.3 thousand, and bots be damned. Slava Ukraine.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.